What's a full shaft arrow? How long is a full shaft arrow?
Oh, he doesn't even cut them.
32 inch.
And so is that what you're using?
Yeah, I just used the full shaft, man.
Do you have a...
Yeah. Same here, bro. The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Deer Grow.
Man, it's almost food plot season, Jared, and Deer Grow is one of those products that has really changed the way that we plant food plots and the success we've seen from them.
No doubt. I've been, trying to plant food plots my entire whitetail hunting career, which is a little shorter than yours. But the minute that I started, or that I realized that I could get Deer Grow back into some of these remote plots where I couldn't get lime or fertilizer, especially in the 50-pound bag, format. Mm-hmm. So everything was changed. I could get into these spots moving forward with a backpack sprayer, and that's since escalated to these 40 or 60 gallon sprayers, and we're doing upwards of 5 to 10 acre food plots just with Deer Grow and having phenomenal success.
Yeah, and I mean, with the price of fertilizer, lime, diesel, everything this year, I mean, what better way to get in there and grow a successful food plot at about a third of the cost? Check out Deer Grow at deergrow.com. And we're back.
Hi-yo.
HUNTR Podcast, episode 142.
Thank you guys for listening. And as always, remember to like, follow, subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcast. We appreciate you listening.
There you go. How about that?
Beauty.
There's a good chance. It is August 24th. This one will air...
When is this going to air?
This one will air
pretty soon, like
the 29th.
Oh yeah, so this is Tuesday. This is basically real time.
Mm-hmm. It's basically a live podcast.
We may have 20,000 YouTube subscribers.
I think we will.
You guys gotta stop watching that shit. It'll happen. It happens when it happens.
I get excited.
It's excited. Nick gets fully erect.
20's worth celebrating. I guess that's a win.
It is.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big one. The other ones I don't pay attention to.
You know what they say? I read a thing that says 0 to 20,000 is the hardest number to get to.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm. You know what else they say?
What's that?
A little bit of baking soda to the arse and groin will often yield the tenderloin.
That it will. That it will.
I have a funny baking story.
Okay, yeah, let's go. Let's start. Let's start. With that.
So, when I was in Charleston for 2 months, we were watching my girlfriend's sister's dog for a while. And the dog got sick, like diarrhea sick.
Is that like your nephew dog then?
She's a girl, so niece.
Dog-in-law.
Dog niece.
Doggy niece.
Sister niece.
Dog niece.
Yeah, she's a little pit bull. And she got real sick.
Yeah, a little bit.
Quite literally. No, she's a sweetheart, but she got real sick for a few days and was just shitting everywhere. And we're looking up like home remedies, how to clean up dog shit, whatever. It's like in the carpet.
You even did Google that?
Well, dude, I've never owned a dog before.
Called a rag, bro. Rag and water.
We're like dumping baking soda after we clean everything, and we're going to use the vacuum, and the carpet's still wet, and I ruined like a $300 vacuum because there's just baking soda caked all through it.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Huh. Cake through it.
Like it.
That's did you say baking story or baking soda story?
I meant to say baking soda story.
Okay. I was like, wait, where's the cupcakes coming into there?
I don't bake. I don't bake.
Okay. Well, that would be a turd sandwich that you were making. So,
well, that's a bummer. Yeah. Was it your vacuum?
No.
Oh, well, no problem then.
Yeah. Is it a rental? Like, are you worried about losing the security deposit there?
No, it was the girl we were renting off of. It was her vacuum, and I'm sure she knows by now. She's definitely not going to listen.
She's
to
like, this vacuum's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You didn't even tell her. You just put it back in the closet.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
we got to work on your character.
That's a good move.
Did clean up the apartment very nice though.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even be able to tell.
So you were
dog
subleasing.
Shit. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't tell them.
Yeah.
If I'm subleasing,
this is what I told my
Honesty,
girlfriend. I
boys.
said if she reaches out and said, "Hey, my vacuum's ruined," I'll say, "I'll buy you a new one."
Yeah.
But we paid a rent.
Nick,
we cleaned
how
up
do you
the
sleep? How do you
listen,
sleep at night?
If it's between a ruined vacuum and her house smelling like dog shit, I think it's a ruined vacuum.
Right.
Fair enough.
That's the way I would look at it. So, anyways, yeah, good story, Nick.
Good to have you back, Nick.
Yeah, it's a good story. Good to tell me about the South. Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Did you fill your water up in the spigot?
I did.
How's it taste?
I haven't tasted it yet.
Give her a swig.
Let's get an honest review. 1 out of 10.
Yeah, mine tastes like chlorine.
Tap water is the base.
I mean, doesn't taste like
Let me
my
smell
house
your-
water.
Yeah, my first cup was from home. That's why I thought.
Maybe your Nalgene's dirty.
No, because the water on the way here was
Maybe
fine.
you peed in it.
I've definitely peed in it. But that's not what I'm tasting, though.
I don't know.
Smell mine. It smells chlorine-y.
Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does smell chlorine.
It was from the bathroom.
Maybe that's why. Well, because the crackhead cleans with like chemicals I wouldn't clean with.
Okay, I'm not going to drink this.
Whatever they used upstairs, it like melted the countertops. And I had to tell them like, hey, don't use that anymore.
Ugh.
I don't know what it was, but it was
Still around?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I fired them multiple times.
No.
For sure.
I clean.
No. I think I fired you
I clean.
multiple times. So there's not many people
You pay.
that'll clean a whole building like every other week for like $80. So
Yeah, that's fair.
anyways, on to the hunt side.
Mm-hmm.
Serious conversation here. It's
Oh, yeah.
August 29th.
Oh, yeah, dude. We're ready to rip.
We got new bows the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday.
Well, we've had them for a little bit, I guess, but we got them all set up, dropped them off with old Tim down at Ultimate Outdoors. And, dude,
Decked out, ready to roll.
how great was that to be able to spend some time with? I feel so bad, like, because I don't know where to tell, especially like Jed, he's like, where do I take my boat? And I'm like,
You just gotta find your guy. I mean, we talked about it when we left there. I mean, because the experience with Tim and Ultimate Outdoors is awesome for us. It's like, Dad, can you fix this, Dad? And he's just there adjusting stuff and making it better. But like, there was one bow shop that I took a lot of my bows to when I was younger. Then it was like, I don't know, I used like a Bass Pro or Dick's Sporting, and dude, they don't know what the hell they were doing.
Mhm.
No offense to anybody who was a bow tech at those places, but you didn't know what you're doing.
sure.
And so Tim even said, he's like, half of my job is fixing.
Well, there's a difference
fixing
between a pro shop
screw-ups.
and a retail store.
Yeah,
I mean,
fixing screw ups from other bow shops.
yeah.
And so we came out of there. I mean, not saying we would, but we could put a broadhead on and go kill a deer at 20 yards easily right now.
Oh, yeah.
And that was leaving the shop, picking up our bows for the first day.
Oh, yeah.
So we got those. We're ready for that. I've been shooting recurve, so I'm still tuning in on that, but I'm pretty confident I'm going to use that quite a bit this year. Maybe even start out with the first, like all September, recurve month.
Yep. Nice. Feed plots are looking good. Man, it's amazing how much work it takes. It's like
Yeah.
just constant maintenance. I'm trying to get some of these clover plots established, and it's like they were looking really good. I got to tell you, that 2.4 dB for me, it didn't do anything.
That's weird.
Did I tell you this?
Yeah, you said it didn't have, and there are some broadleafs like horse nettle and stuff that it won't kill.
I don't know exactly what they were. One of them was
I mean,
ragweed.
But
for
ragweed
sure.
should definitely die from that.
Yeah, one of them was ragweed, and another one was there's a real polleny broadleaf. Do you know what that would be? It's like we've got a lot of it, just real polleny. Like if you run over, it's like a dust of
I don't know.
whatever. But yeah, that stuff was still in there, and I was like, that was a bummer because I was like, when I sprayed 2 weeks ago, I was like, man, this is gonna really, it's good timing. We'd gotten some rain since, and when I went back and checked, it was, they didn't look that great. So that's why I called you the other day. I was like, dude, what should I do? Just for a second opinion. So what I ended up doing with almost all of those was because there's good clover in there. It's not like I need to start from scratch or whatever. I broadcast oats into most of them, and we mowed them.
Yep.
And it was kind of risky because there was not really any rain in the
It was hot.
forecast. And it was hot. Fortunately, we got like 1.5 inches of rain last night, and
So it'll be perfect.
it just should be absolutely perfect.
Yeah, and then in the springtime, you kill your oats out of there and
Yeah.
got clover.
Yeah.
You're good to go. Yeah, it's weird. We both have been dealing with a lot of weeds this year, and I don't know why. I mean, I've sprayed at the right times. I've had really good kills, and then like there it is, weeds. I don't know where the hell they come from.
Yeah,
They're just in the seed bed waiting.
they're aggressive.
I think what I saw, at least in a lot of my places, is I would take out, whatever the existing vegetation was, and I'd put my seed in, and there would be, in my case, it was Johnson grass suppressed by whatever was over top. I killed what's over top. That Johnson grass then just exploded, and so I think that that's the downfall, of spraying in a lot of these places, is that you don't know what's in the seed bed that's going to be maybe even worse than what you're killing off.
Yeah.
And especially when you're putting your seed in, now you've got your growing plants that you don't want to nuke with glyphosate intermixed with stuff that you need to get nuked out. So we did some clethodim in our brassicas even. And I don't think I've ever done that before.
I've never done that before.
I've never had to. My brassica plots have come in great, and like there are no grasses in them, or very few.
Yeah. Well, dude, we're very much still learning, and so like if anybody listened to like what we have said about food plots, sorry if we messed you up at all. But like, so one example is, I don't think we talked about this on here yet, but I went back and checked on my brassica plots that I planted mid-July. I go for an early planting couple reasons. Like if we hit a really dry August and September, I want them to have enough time to grow. If something happens, and that was the case this year where I have to replant, then I have time to do that. And I don't know, there's a couple of reasons, but so that's what happened. I planted like 4.5 acres of brassicas, 3.5 acre plots each, all at the Ohio farm. And I went back and checked them it was in the first week of August, I think. So 3 weeks ago now. And I mean, like a complete failure.
Yeah.
Like I still to this day, I don't necessarily know. It's not bad seed. I can guarantee that.
Which is weird.
Because I did go back. There was a fourth small plot it was actually where the beans are at. And I just broadcasted right into the beans. And those ones look great. Look really good. The 3 that I broadcast into standing, basically standing fields. There were fields that had been worked before. So I felt like I had adequate, not too much thatch.
Yeah.
Like I was going to be able to get seed to soil. I'm pretty sure we had good rain. I got a complete kill with the gly, and those freaking things just did not grow.
There wasn't hardly anything.
Hardly anything.
Weird.
And I was like second guessing because, it had been a year since, and I was like, what should they look like at this point in? And so what we did was I was right then and there. I was like, these are going to fail. Like I need to stop what I'm doing and replant these like today. It was like August 6th or something. So we did. I had already sprayed 2-3 weeks before the day that we seeded. So I had Dad turn everything over. With Ferminator. The Ferminator, dude, has been a staple since the beginning.
Yeah.
So it works.
There's been complaints about it, but
yeah, some complaints. It's not perfect, but
yeah,
it's got one row of blades, for instance. But so I had Dad turn it over and called a pack, and we had a nice seed bed. And I went to the co-op and got there 15 minutes before they closed and bought all new seed. The rate of which was interesting. Talking about it was frigid forage is what I planted originally.
What's that? 4 pounds per acre.
And it calls for 4 pound per acre, which seems super light.
It is.
So
it's like 7 to 8.
So I ended up putting down 8 pounds an acre of just the stuff I bought from the co-op. We made a ragtag deal, and it looks amazing. So now we're back in business. I replanted that day. We got good rain since then, and all of those are looking like 6 to 8 inches tall right now.
There you go.
So 2 of them look money, 10 out of 10. The third one did have a lot of grass in it, like there was a lot of brassicas, but it looked like a lawn. Like there's just really nice grass coming up in there. So I sprayed it with clethodim.
Yeah,
I think a week ago.
Yeah, really weird stuff that frankly I don't remember dealing with in the past on a lot of these plots. But new fields, different fields, like you never know what's in the seed bank on some of that stuff. So, that's the kind of stuff that I always just smirk at when somebody says, "Ooh, corn pile is the same as a food plot." And I'm like, get bent.
Yeah, food plots are hard, man.
It's not easy. It's expensive. It's time consuming, and it's not a guarantee by any means.
Yeah. All said and done, though, I do feel like I've got the best food we've ever had.
That'll be important.
I've got a lot of good. The beans that I planted, like with the drill that we rented, look like money. Like a farmer planted them. Yep.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, pretty happy with that.
There you go. So yeah, I mean we're in it at this point. Like I said, we're a week from season starting to open. I'll be in Kentucky on the 2nd, whether I'm hunting or the kids are hunting. And then the next week I've got an elk hunt in Kentucky. Not me, but I'm the pack mule and the caller. So man, we're in it just like that. It's hard to believe that it's we're staring September in the face at this point. It's exciting, but just like crazy that it's here.
Yeah, just about in a week or two here. So in the meantime, we've got someone here to preoccupy our conversation.
He's come back around.
Coming back around. We're going to catch up with Rendell Erik today.
Yep. No balls, no bucks.
And Eric's
right. No?
Yeah,
Yep.
Rendell's become like a good friend and always a source of comedic relief. So
The deer hunting
excited to have
giant,
him
we
on.
might call him. He's
Yep.
a big dude.
The one-stepping ball dragon. No balls, no bucks.
Yeah. He's got a new career since we've last
That's
talked
right.
to him.
It sounds like
this is pretty
some
wild.
big changes have moved to Iowa, quit his job, got a new job.
Got a new job and still killing bucks. Or that's the plan, at least.
Let's get him on.
We
Yeah,
got
we're
you?
good.
Great.
All right.
What's up, dude?
Chilling, man. Getting ready for deer season.
Chilling. Decked out in that ASIO gear, I see. Head to toe.
Yeah, man.
Speaking of new career, right?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I finally got my dream job.
So tell us. We talked briefly on the phone there, but because you were a school teacher before, you were working with special ed kids for a while.
Yeah, special ed and like special behavior kids.
Yep.
Like, the naughty kids, kind of.
You just had to, beat them in line, basically. Can we say that now that you're not a teacher?
If
or
I don't know if I can say this or not, but the first time you ever told me that, I said, "Oh, dude, that's super admirable." You're like, "Yeah, I don't really like it."
No, man. I was pretty miserable, to be honest with you. It's a really hard job, like especially this day and age.
Yeah, I can't even imagine, dude. Yeah, kids don't listen to shit anymore.
Well, but so
Yeah,
what?
and you can't really do anything either. It's just free for all. Like they just do whatever they want.
Yeah, you yell at them and it's your fault and you're fired and on CNBC before you know it.
Yeah, you can't hurt anybody's feelings. That's for sure.
Well, but what happened? So Joe Miles saw your last podcast, said this dude's an awesome. We need to have this guy, and just like that.
Yeah, Joe found me on some podcasts I did. Then he went into my social media, seen the size of the bucks I kill, and then he had a guy that worked for him just look into me a little bit, and we became friends. And I was talking to Joe Miles about some different video stuff he had, and then they started sponsoring me, and then I went to some shows that they were doing and volunteered, and then he seen my value right away, and said he just had to have me. So now I'm working for ASIO as a manager full time.
That's crazy, man. Well, first of all, congratulations, dude.
Yeah.
That's pretty much.
Appreciate it.
I mean, you pick up and you move to Iowa to kill big deer, and you find yourself working in the industry. That's a Cinderella story if I've heard one.
Yeah, all that sacrifice paid off, man. There was a lot of stuff I did that I don't really talk about that much. Like when I first came to Iowa, I didn't know anybody. I'd never been to the Iowa where I moved to. I didn't have a job lined up, no place to live. I lived in a campground for 7 months.
Whoa.
And then I made friends with another guy that had some a little bit of land, and he had like a dilapidated fifth wheel camper, like the walls were falling apart and stuff. And he let me live in that, and I lived in that for 7 months until I found an apartment out in the middle of the country, because I live in like the least populated part of Iowa, so it's really hard to find places to live.
Mm-hmm.
So 14 months I pretty much lived without running water and stuff like that. But
Wow.
then I got an apartment, started doing like random jobs. I got an agricultural degree, and then I got into teaching, and then now I'm doing the ASIO gig now. So it really paid off coming up here. And it's like, I mean, you can't kill big bucks if you're not hunting where big bucks are. So, I mean, it paid off for sure to come up here.
No way. Remind me, are you married, Rendell?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Wow. And did she live in the dilapidated camper for 7 months with you? With no running water?
No, I didn't pick her up until
Afterward.
like 5 years ago or so.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was gonna say that's quite a woman.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Boy,
Her first kid come out sideways. She didn't scream or nothing.
yeah. Let's keep in mind too that it's not like you're just blending into the crowd here, right? You're 6'8", So it's like, here's this new guy that moves into town, and it's like you stick out.
yeah, the small town. It's like fresh meat kind of thing, It's like,
Oh man. Well, but what I think is crazy about that, and seriously, like, congratulations on that. You you obviously took a huge risk picking up and going to a place that, like, you know nothing about. You got no job, you got no place to stay, you know. And as crazy as some people make it think, there's a lot of us that understand it's like, well, it's because you want to kill big deer. You know, and you can't just go and do that anywhere.
I bet Randall would phrase it as nothing to lose as opposed to a big risk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, no balls, no bucks. If you want to change your life and chase your dreams, you got to do really extreme measures sometimes to make it happen.
Well, and so even with this ASIO stuff, right? I mean, obviously you were working with them, but I mean, you had to volunteer and you probably traveled about. I mean, there's a lot of sacrifices there for you to get noticed even. Yeah,
for sure. I traveled a lot. It's funny, like the first show I worked for them, there was like a snowstorm and it delayed my flight. So at my other teaching job, I was on the phone for like an hour and a half with the airline while I'm trying to teach. And then they flipped me to a different airline and they're like, you got to go now. So I was just like, oh, I'm sick. I got emergency. And I just took off.
Emergency sickness. Get the baking soda.
And then I Ubered to the airport and then flew out maybe before the snowstorm hit. So it was like, man, it took a lot of effort to get some of these shows and all the traveling. Like last month, I was in 13 states in 14 days. I mean, it takes a lot of time and effort.
So what you're saying you're a manager. So what are your major responsibilities there?
So I'm running all of the shows and expos that we're going to next year. Doing like some product development stuff.
Tell us about ASIO. Like, how big is the company? Because Joe just started it like what, 3 years ago?
It's 4 years. 4 years old.
4 years. Okay.
Yeah, this is our 4th year. It's a premium camo line, and Joe based it off of a great horned owl's feather pattern. He was in the woods and he was walking and these owls flew down and he seen them and then he looked away and then he tried to find them again and he couldn't find them until they flew off and landed into another tree. And then he looked away and he looked up and he couldn't find them. And great horned owls, they see in like 2D vision, just like a deer, and rabbits and squirrels see just like a deer do. So he was like, well, they hunt prey that sees just like a deer and we both hunt out of trees, so it just made sense. But he did a lot of like sheep hunting and stuff, and a lot of that clothing line is premium, but it's not made for sitting after you are active for a while. It's made to stay moving to keep you warm, and then you'd sit and then you freeze after a while. So we kind of took that and made it into a camo line that you can be active in, but then it'll keep you warm too when you're sitting in your stand or your saddle. And then it's got tried to fix a lot of the problems we had with like clothing that we wore in the past, like the little things, little details, you know, like when you got to draw your bow when it's, 10 below zero, you need like stretch in the armpit, stuff like that. So you got a whole clothing line that's really high end, premium quality. It's super silent, and it's just made just for bow hunting, pretty much.
Awesome, man.
Well, and Joe's got quite a track record of, or like a wall of bucks, basically, to say, accrued experience to say I've got my certain twists that I want to put onto apparels. I mean, that's what's cool about, there's lots of good brands of all kind of different stuff, whether it's tree stands or camo or, but typically it's the guys behind them that have, it's like their twist on something. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. No, Joe's a great guy. I mean, top-notch people behind the company. I really believe in it. Usually I get products and I always find something I don't really like about it, or, you know what I mean? I kind of scrutinize it quite a bit, but he's about the only company that I've never really found anything I didn't really like or had an issue with. So just the person he is, the quality of the clothing and stuff is what made me get behind it, because I want to run stuff and work for companies I really believe in. So it wasn't a hard sell for me to join the ASIO team.
Right on. Do they have to custom make your stuff?
No, I wear the regular stuff.
Big and tall.
Yeah, everything's made a little longer so you don't get like wind drafts and stuff. So it'll be longer on you, but normal size for me.
I need a little shorter, if anything.
Where are they based out of?
Columbia, South Carolina.
Okay. Very cool. Awesome, man. Well, yeah, that's super cool. And obviously, last time that we talked and your passion for it, I mean, it makes a ton of sense. I can completely understand what Joe saw in the alignment. And, I think a lot of brands probably underestimate the value of those consumer shows and stuff, that the impact, especially a newer brand or something that people are less familiar with, to really get in front of them and, feel, touch, clothing especially, I think it's very important.
Yeah, 100%. It's like grassroots effort kind of deal, because a lot of people see it online and are not really sure about it, how it's going to fit and feel, like you said. So it's good to get out there into different demographics and get the brand built up. And you get a couple of guys wearing it here and there, and then their buddies see it. So it's kind of like the ground level, old school kind of way to grow your brand.
Were you at the Harrisburg? So it's a Pennsylvania. It's the
Great American Outdoor Show.
Were you there this past?
I wasn't there yet.
Okay, because I saw the ASIO booth. I just kind of was walking past. I didn't think you were a part of that yet. Will you be there this coming year?
Yeah, I'll be there. I'm doing 20 shows next year.
Wow.
All right. Well, let's try to connect. Maybe if not at the show, in person or whatever. We'll be there for that briefly.
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna drive right through PA to get there. So.
Yeah.
What's in PA? So.
Yeah, I'm staying in Iowa, so. I mean, I'll have to drive out from Iowa to get to everywhere I'm going to.
Yeah, that makes sense. So when pre-podcast we were talking, you said we talked about kind of your strategy on the public land side, last podcast, but now with being in the industry and not having a teaching position, it sounds like that's probably created some changes in your approach here.
Yeah, for sure. So I anticipated the time traveling. I'll be gone a lot that January through end of March timeframe.
Yep.
So I purposely did not do any postseason scouting this year when I was doing like 300 miles a year. Now I did nothing. And I'm putting all my chips on in-season scouting to see which one weighs the most weight for me.
Oh, wow.
Because I can hunt every day of the season now for like 4 months. So I got a lot of time to get out there and get on fresh bucks and see the seasons change and things like that. So I'm really switching the end season just to see how well I do compared to the years when I did mostly postseason scouting. And in a perfect world, it's like a tag team,
Mm-hmm.
You got the postseason knowledge, then you can use the in season knowledge, like a rub line's open in season and it goes to this bedding area. And then you can use that to your advantage, where I'm just diving in just in season. And I'm hunting a lot of states too, states I've never even been to, haven't even scouted yet, on purpose, just so I can get better at fine tuning everything in season. So it's basically like a learning year for me to try to get better at certain things I think I'm not that great at yet, or I don't want to rely on what I was getting it done with and try to get better in other areas. Is basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, it definitely is a different thing. The postseason scouting, it just undoubtedly, that's probably a better time of year to be able to see, all the foliage is gone, all the trails are well worn in and stuff. It's so you can see everything that happened and then, use it to apply to next year. But the in-season stuff is like real time. It's like almost like a different scale. It's like, how do I, I'm seeing what's happening right now. How can I take this and not screw it up, but utilize it right now to kill the buck that's, that's making the sign or whatever.
Yeah, and last season I kind of hunted in-season scouting a little bit, just to kind of transition into that mode. And my buddy Jared Schaefer from Tethered came out and hunted with me for a little bit, and I found that in-season sign, when I would find it and verify, like, all right, the buck's using this, I caught myself, instead of hunting that spot the next morning, I'd hang a freaking camera or a cell cam up to verify the size of the deer.
Yeah.
And then I'd wait for the picture. Then when I got the photo, I was like, damn it, I should have been there. That buck,
yeah.
That buck usually hit your scent, and then you tipped him off, and he's like avoiding the area, or it changed his travel route a little bit, and then you missed your opportunity. So like, you just got to trust your gut. Last year, I don't think I trusted my gut in season as much as I should have.
Yeah.
I was too worried about like trying to verify like size and stuff like that, when I should have just been, freestyle hunting when you're doing the in-season scouting thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are definitely advantages to the in-season, right? I mean, if you find a giant rub line and fresh scrapes and things you hunt it. You're in there, you hunt it, and I mean, it's happening versus, okay, I saw it last year. You don't even know if that buck made it through.
I do wonder, like, how many guys take advantage of truly in-season scouting. Like, I have to imagine there's some guys that are just like, well, here's the food plot. This is where my stand's at. This is where I hunt. Over time, like, as seasons have progressed here, I think I've benefited from seeing real time. Dude, but those big bucks just aren't everywhere that there's good habitat is the reality. It's not like you could just go to a good spot and expect a big one to be there.
No.
I've, like I said, benefited more from like sight laps during the season. Mm-hmm. Like I do scout beforehand, to a degree. Like, I want to know obviously where, in a postseason scouting, I want to identify those, whatever it is, south-facing knobs, or, where these bedding ridges or stuff. I'm not pushing into that necessarily. And then preseason, like this year, we're seeing a ton of like the white oaks are loaded for us, like in Ohio and stuff. And so like I know right now that's going to be killer. I've got some cameras on those close to bedding areas and stuff. But it won't be until the end of September, getting into October, that the real sign starts to be there. When that velvet comes off and they literally start rubbing trees, or they literally start working scrapes or hanging in certain food sources. If you aren't out there actively scouting during that time of the year, you won't ever see it. And if you're like too scared to go in there or whatever, you might not ever know it until, we finally walked across it, in gun season or later on in shed season. You're like, well, it's, that happened in October. We missed it by a mile.
Yeah. I think that's
scouting labs.
I do a lot of late season scouting, but I will say that the majority of intel that I go off of is late season is in season. Like it is throughout the year, trying to identify the freshest, most recent sign, and then make a strategy off of that. Mm-hmm. And there's some downfalls to it because again, let's say you find a big rub. Well, you're a step behind. That deer already made that big rub. Yes, maybe it's an indicator he's in the area. But just like Rendell's saying about, putting up a camera and getting the picture, like you're a step behind at that point. So, I think Rendell, to your point, it's a really weird thing. I don't even know how to describe it, but it is very gut reactionary. Like when you get into an area and you find a few things that just say, okay, there's probably a big deer here. The next thing I look at is conditions. When's the right time to get in there and just get visualization on that? Because if I set a camera and I'm guilty of it, I'm going to get a picture of a buck I'd kill, but it's too late, and then I'm a step behind.
I got a question for you. I don't remember if we talked last time. Are you a moon guy or no?
I have never paid attention to weather, moon, nothing. I just hunt whenever I can hunt. But I have started to dabble into paying attention to like the red moon and things like that. Just I don't know, for my own knowledge and stuff, just to see if it holds weight or not.
Well, you've got so much time to hunt now. I feel like you probably could be more particular about like your weather patterns and stuff.
Yeah, I've thought about it, but I'm still like, I'm just really aggressive. So I feel like I'm just going to put the screws to the buck. I'm either going to kill him or blow him out when I hunt him every single day. Like, just get it done.
That's funny, man. Yeah, we talked about this on one of our last podcasts because I was guilty for a while. If I knew there was a buck I wanted to kill and I could narrow in on him, I literally would sit on the sidelines for 3 weeks until, October 23rd in the right cold front, and then I'd kill him on a scrape, which is great, but ultimately it's like I probably could have killed him earlier, maybe if I tried it or if I hunted and I just didn't. I just sat on the sidelines. And the risk there is like he gets killed or those weather conditions never line up and you miss your opportunity completely at anything.
Yeah, no, every buck has this different personality. Like some bucks will play the game and they'll hold in there with you. The mature deer really lock into that little core area, and it can be kind of hard to push them out. So you can put a lot more sits. Now, I wouldn't sit the same tree every time, but I would just be bouncing around the property that he's on, trying to figure him out. Maybe do a couple observation sits. I think I'll start doing that more because I have time. But when you're hunting a bunch of other states too, man, you just want to hit the gas and just try to dive in there to get it done so you can be gone to the next one.
That's a great point, dude. You can't beat an observation sit. I think so. And it's tempting. Like you don't want to miss out on, a hunt to kill a deer by sitting out on the sidelines. But man, if you put yourself, That's what I did last year, like with that big 8-point. Granted, Dad ended up killing him in December or whatever, but I felt like I really benefited from just kind of like I knew where they were at. I just needed to kind of work the edge and get on some vantage points so I could fine tune. Like I could see sign and stuff, but sitting back and especially if it's in a new area, regardless of the time of the season, I think sitting back and getting eyes on something is
I was going to say that
invaluable.
If you're playing it safe, to Rendell's point, being aggressive in a kill situation from an observation side, if you can find an area that it's like, listen, I'm not going to bugger anything here, but frankly, if you got the time, just be out there anyways. Like, what else are you going to do? Sit on the couch at home? Like, I mean, you might as well be out there at least experiencing it and trying to get intel on that stuff. And that probably, think of whether it's a thicket coming or CRP coming out to a field edge or whatever, that deer, you could get him on camera or something, but like where he actually came out, visually seeing how he comes out, his behavior as he comes out, there's a lot of data there that you're going to be able to take in and apply when you actually try to go in and kill him.
Yeah.
So early season, I usually hunt just afternoon. So I actually like to do my observation sits in the morning, and I'll watch where they go back to bed, and I'll use the day wind to predict where I think he's bedding at based on my knowledge of doing so much postseason scouting and finding beds all the time. I've gotten really good at kind of guessing where I think he's bedded, and then I'll make my move in the afternoon to cut him off coming back out is what I mostly like to do.
I think a lot of people overlook that morning scouting opportunity, whether it's an observation sit or, dude, I find myself spending so much time in the truck, just circling the area like that I'm in. And I'm not trying to, run all the dirt roads that are, I'm not trying to blow anything out necessarily, but like, if you know where they were at in the morning, like that's a huge piece of information to be able to say, okay, I know what bedding areas are nearby. I've already done my postseason scouting. Based on this wind, it's likely that he's going to go back to, wherever, and then that's where you make your. So many of them sightings just happen like on a whim, like from the truck. You're like, I just happened to notice that this was happening. It was first light. This buck crossed the road. He went down into this thicket. I know there's only one way out of there, type of deal. And
that's what I was going to ask, Randall. So in those morning scouting opportunities, what are you doing? Are you sitting on like bean fields, or are you pushing into the timber a little bit? Like, what's your strategy there from a morning scout situation?
If it's more open country, I like to stay in the truck with a spot and scope, or just stand or get on top of my truck with the spot and scope. Or if it's like more recluse area, I'll get way up in a tree with the spot and scope on a camera arm, but I'll stay back far enough away where they won't wind me, or
Gotcha.
I don't have to mess with them when I'm coming out. When they set up in the bedding, I don't have to walk by it or something. I'm just trying to stay back and be really smart about what I'm doing so that I don't tip them off.
Interesting. Yeah, I would say that's probably a big, and again, hunting time being limited, that's probably a big miss for a lot of people. Even if they have the time to be in a stand, if they're like, whatever, wind's not right, I'm hunting, instead of using that day as like a good scouting opportunity, they're doing something else, whatever, watching football or sitting on the couch or whatever it might be. And I get that, but it is probably a big missed opportunity to get out there and get eyes on, and even if it's not the buck you're trying to kill, just seeing other deer and how they're working the wind and back into bedding is just as critical.
Yeah. And it can tip you off to like little feed sources shift, like that end of September. I think they shift off of acorns and they go to greens. They'll get on like hay fields and green grass and stuff for like a week or two before they make their fall shift for October. So catching little like week or 2 week little windows when all the does and bucks were in the hay field, then I know I can back off beans and start looking at just greens and trying to figure out where I can get in at on green fields and stuff before they switch to corn at the end of the month.
That's interesting. Those like September, October food sources seem to kind of always baffle me. Like I know I was just out there a week ago looking at some of our stuff. And so I was scouting the oaks specifically and noticed that a lot of the white oaks are just, look like one big acorn. The thing's just loaded. But they're, green, like greeny beanie, doesn't look like they're getting ready to drop anytime soon. But is there a date, or is there a specific window where we're like, hey, white oaks typically drop right now? Like I know it's earlier than red oaks.
Yeah,
it'll be before the opener.
It'll be September,
like mid-September, September 15th.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see them. People are seeing them dropping earlier now, and it depends on storms.
So
and
the
stuff
ones that I saw,
through.
none had dropped, just all in the tree,
Yep.
all green.
Yep. So you still have 2 or 3 weeks probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Peak drop is probably right before the opener or right on the opener from a white oak standpoint.
Yep.
Now, again, if a big windstorm comes through or something, they're going to drop a lot faster and a lot quicker. But they, some of those might not be perfectly ripe when they hit the ground either.
Sure.
And then your red oaks are going to be more trailing into that,
November, right?
Yeah, mid-October to late October timeframe. But, when you're sitting in the woods and opening day hearing bombs drop, that's white oaks dropping.
Yeah. Well, see, and I've always been a believer in, like, if there's green beans, and you could couple that with, whatever green food source, I guess, but they're coming off of the beans in the summer, sometimes alfalfa. Seems like if there's any of that left over for opening day, at least where I'm at, that's where they're at. And, we haven't had good acorn years the past 2 years, so I don't know if that's the reason for that. I mean, I assume if they have the choice between a half green soybean field and a white oak acorn, like they're gonna obviously go to the acorns.
Yeah, I think they'll hit the acorns first. I do find that, in my opinion, through living in Iowa so long and observations through hunting, cameras, scouting, corn is king for me in the Midwest. I already got deer on corn right now. They won't even hit the beans right now that are green. They're hitting the corn hard right now on the field edges and stuff, and they'll never leave the corn. And I find the crop rotation here between beans and corn, wherever I have corn, I'll have the mature bucks, and the beans don't hold as many mature bucks for me. They'll bail out of there.
Wow.
So I'll have a little wood lot that had corn on it, and it'll have a couple mature bucks in there. And then the next year it switches to beans, and they'll totally abandon that, and they'll go to the shift to wherever the corn is. So I think it provides like security cover, moisture. They can bed in the corn. I find a lot of corn bedding, honestly. I mean, some guys believe that, some guys don't, but they bed in the waterways, any spot that didn't get planted.
Yeah.
Or I even kick them up right out of corn rows when I'm going in sometimes.
Yeah.
So I really focus on corn. I'll look at the aerials and figure out, all right, where's the corn? Because I'll predict a shift. If I see a big buck on beans in the summer, I'm predicting him to shift to that corn just about every time, unless it's premium bedding. I think he'll stay in that bedding, and I call it long lining. He'll long line out to wherever that corn is. It might be a mile or two. He'll travel after dark to get to the corn.
Yeah.
Then he'll go back, because he'll never bed somewhere that's not superior bedding, because it doesn't give him the opportunity to be safe to stay alive.
Yep. Agree. Yeah, that's what, in fact, my Kentucky corn that I planted, a lot of that on the edges is getting crushed right now by deer. I mean, they're just hammering it.
Always has. It's truthfully, I've never set up on like a cornfield as like a food source. Like we just
for like early season or just
ever, frankly.
Really?
I know it's there, and I'm probably, I don't know, I'm just thinking about it here for the first time. Like it's just a lot of our stuff is intermixed. So most fields out, this is in Ohio that I'm talking about, are, it's a couple rows of corn, couple rows of beans, and so it's all intermixed. And they always harvest the soybeans first. So the soybeans are typically picked around, October 1st, I think, like right in there. And the corn doesn't typically get picked until mid-November.
Which is different in a lot of the Midwest, where corn, in a lot of cases, is going around the same time as beans, if not earlier. Like Kansas, a lot of that corn's gone before the beans are gone.
Right.
Right.
And I don't know why that is necessary. So, but I'm always like, jockeying that time of year is like more than any other time of year, trying to figure out what they're hitting. Like the white oaks are a no-brainer. It's like, they're obviously, this white oak's loaded. It's right next to this bedding area. It's pinched in by corn. I can tell the corn's obviously, they're just getting browsed as well. Mm-hmm. I have to tell you right now, dude, if you can find a spot like that, I'm going to kill a buck there. Like probably either me or I'm going to put one of our guys on it. There's a big 150-inch 8-point. I know for a fact he's using this little just nook. He's just bedding in this little thing that overlooks the road. And it's abutted by a decent sized cornfield, and right on the edge there's kind of a point, there's a giant white oak that's just absolutely loaded. And I I went in there the other day knowing full well he was probably in that bedding area. I had to trim out a tree. I was like, this is probably where he's going to be, is we're going to catch him. And I put a camera in there, and sure enough, like pretty much right away, like after I left, he come out of the bedding area to see what was going on,
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think one of the things that I try to look at is, I do think that the green use is pretty high. I think we're getting to that point where they're using beans, but if they've got alfalfa or clover or whatever, hay fields, like they're going to be visiting those just as much. And then as these acorns start dropping, and it typically is coinciding at the same time that, velvet's shedding, bachelor groups are breaking up. That's when, like, all of a sudden, there may not be a mature buck anywhere near the property you're watching, and then boom, like there it is. And it's just like, this is the shift, right? And I think, to Rendell's point, you see them hit some of these hay fields or green fields, and then I think that part of that is they've been holding so tight along corn and bean fields all summer. Like, they're not moving at all. And then all of a sudden they start to venture out and they hit those hay fields and they move a little more and they find some white oaks and they move a little more. And it's just the expansion of the home range like that. And then eventually when the crops come down, it blows wide open.
I wonder how, what the whitetails process is for finding those white oaks that are dropped. Is it just kind of like happenstance, or do you think it's like once they see ones dropping or something tips them off to be like, I need to go check that oak flat? It's probably got.
I honestly think, in my opinion, I think bucks scout just like we do. Like, you get that couple day window movement in the summer of bucks will just pop up on camera. Like, I think they're scouting their home range for the fall shift, and they're checking food sources, they're checking bedding areas to see if they can shift into that or not. And I think just as they get older, they're just taking data, and they know that tree's there some previous years. Or Mother Nature, man, it's a crazy thing, dude. Like, they just have the instincts to know, like, oh, that oak tree is probably dropping this year, maybe. And he's checking on that, and he just shows up to see if it's going to produce or not.
You ever hear of people being in the stands with pockets of rocks, and they would just drop rocks out of their stands to make it sound like acorns are dropped? You've never heard about that?
No, but I've seen like the acorn cruncher.
Guys used to, I mean, dude, that was like a major thing in especially like the 90s, like early bow hunting type stuff, is guys would have, I think my dad would do it. He'd have a pocket full of rocks when he was in an oak flat. And like, if there was a buck out of range or something, he would just start throwing rocks out of his pocket, and it sounded like, and it would draw a buck in.
Yeah, there's some guys that drop persimmons in the South out of their tree stands and stuff to try to pull a deer in closer.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
The part of Iowa I hunt, like, it's really diverse up here, so I can get from hill country to open country where there's not really that many oaks, honestly.
Yeah.
And for me, when the acorns are dropping, I tend to leave that area and go more towards where there's no oaks, because I think it's more patternable to get on that buck, because when you got 1,000 trees dropping, it takes a lot of time to get in there to find that one feed tree that they're hitting on really hard, where I feel like I got better luck just counting on the corn somewhere where there's not going to be any oaks at all.
Yeah.
I can relate to that for sure.
So in your open stuff, are you, because there's not many oaks, I mean, what's your hunting strategy there? I mean, I assume it's like big CRP fields and crop fields and things like that. I mean, is it on the ground stuff, or are you finding that small group of trees to try to get up in? What are you looking for?
Yeah, I'm hunting junk trees, man, like honey locust trees, hedge apple trees, like just gnarly, nasty, whatever I can get in trees. Sometimes I might be a foot off the ground, and other times 9 foot. There's a lot of walnut trees in western Iowa and central. You can get into some walnuts. The honey locust pods too. They'll shift almost like acorns, and early it's got that green mash kind of in it. They'll break off and go hit those really hard. So I really look for those honey locust groves pretty hard for early season too.
Do you still see, like, in those big open areas when you've got a small tree row, whether it's, honey locust or osage, do you still see the deer kind of hug to that structure when they're moving?
Yeah, they use it as like security cover. The younger deer don't do it as much, but if you get a mature buck, 4.5 plus, he'll hug really tight. Even if that fence line's only a couple yards wide, he'll hold on to that thing. He won't usually break more than like 20 yards off of that. He'll just stay on it the whole time.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Hoyt Archery.
Dude, where would we be without our Hoyt bows?
Probably shooting crossbows.
or a Matthews, yeah.
One and the same.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, we love being Hoyt guys because you stand out. When you're in this room full of other people that shoot these other types of bows, I feel like the Hoyt guys just stick out.
Dude, it's just a legit bow. I mean, especially that carbon riser, man. I mean, I know that they've got several other aluminum lines as well, but for me, I'm shooting that RX5 in the carbon model. They've since come out with the RX7, and I can't tell you how much I love being a Hoyt guy amongst a sea full of Matthews guys. So we're out there, I think, proving them wrong, shooting 80 pounds and killing stuff.
Hey, man, if you want to get serious, get Hoyt. It's amazing how, like, that same animal, 100 miles from this spot, and just how different their behavior is, how much they have to adapt to the environment, basically.
Well, dude, even from this time of year until like October, we're only a month and a half out or whatever, less than that.
Yeah.
They're like a totally different animal.
Well, we talked about it, and so we've got...
Look at them now, even trying to age these suckers where I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that thing 3, 4? And then you see it in the season, you're like, oh, that's a horse.
Yeah, clearly mature. We talked about it in a lot of this big ag country, in that, it's almost hard to imagine what it looks like come, the first week in November, because there's corn and cover everywhere. And then all of a sudden it's going to be like almost a barren landscape to it. It's like, well, he's got to be in there. There's no other place for him to be. It's there or in this drainage ditch. Like, that's it.
Yeah, pretty much. And you really got to be paying attention because that shift happens quick. And there's a lot of shifts in there in a little small window. So if you're going to take advantage of something, you can't be sitting on the couch like we were talking about. You got to be super aggressive because you might only have like a week window on one food and a week window on the next, and he's shifting around. He's scouting his rut range because usually like November 5th, if I'm on a buck in October, that's when I usually lose them about that November 5th day, and I usually never see them again. They're doing whatever they're doing.
And what's your camera strategy when you're trying to adapt all these spots? I mean, do you have cell cameras and spots, or using standard cameras and just planting them and coming back and checking at some point? What's your plan there?
So really isolated areas that I think are sensitive, or like open country where the deer can see you a mile away, I tend to run cell cams, and they're more set up for where I think the deer's going to shift into depending on what food source is there. And then the SD card cameras, I run them more like on overlook spots, stuff right by the road. Or if I'm working my way in the hunt somewhere, I'll put them on the route to my way in just to see if I can pick up something that's just using a field at night or something.
Gotcha.
But the cell cams are more like in the kill zone, that 100 yards out of bedding, I think, around the perimeter. And the SD card cameras are more like, well, this buck's getting here at 2 a.m. I'm probably not killing him unless I'm going 500 yards or more to figure out where he's at.
Do you know it's actually been huge for me this year? I never realized how much I would benefit from it until I started using it. Who's makes that? Is it Hunter Specialties makes that steak?
HME.
Makes like, and I know a couple different companies make them. It's just a
Bog makes one.
Just a little iron rod with a quarter-inch screw or whatever. Dude, I mean,
the original one was like Pick and Stick.
Pick and Stick is it their own brand or whatever.
Yeah.
But I have always, I never used them until this year. I've always just, took a machete with me basically, and you have to like find a tree that's on the edge and then like get back to it and then clear the stuff in front of it. It's kind of a huge pain in the butt, especially in some of that farm country stuff. My word. Yeah, I bought a box of them. They're relatively cheap. They're like $10, $15 a piece.
$15, yeah.
Don't buy it. Yeah, you'll see them at
for like $39 or something like that.
Yeah, that's stupid. Just
Go
ahead.
Sorry, I go buy some like T-posts cheap at the farm store.
There you go.
Yep.
I just zip tie the cameras to them and shove them down in the ground.
There you go.
The field edge.
Well, that's because you're giant, Rendell. You just take the friggin' T-post and just pushes it down with his hand.
Like a freaking
we're out there with
driver.
a T-post driver.
Yeah. Well, so these stakes are real nice because it just has a little foot thing. I can just, wherever I want, I can just plant it right in there. So like, last week or whatever, when I was going around scouting, it's like, there would be no way, and I've done it before, hang cameras on like the corn stalks, bundle them all up and stuff. But then you know, the wind's throwing it all off, and it's like I could just literally put that camera exactly where I need it to be, and it's quick and dirty, and those have been huge for me this year.
Yeah, the electric fence T-posts, they're plastic,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
got the stab. You can just stab them right down and zip tie the camera on.
Are they sturdy enough though? I would think your camera would be like, ooh.
They hold pretty decent if you got it set up right. You can always run a little piece of rebar in the back of the stake if
Yeah.
it's wobbly, but that's a lot to carry out there. So, I mean, it depends. I usually hang my cameras pretty high, like 10 foot.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
on
that's like
average.
you just reaching straight up, though. I mean, Jared and I are on each other's
that's eye level.
shoulders. Yeah, I'm on his shoulders trying to get it up there.
Imagine Rendell just holding a ball away from us.
Yeah, I do that a lot.
Just grab it.
I use a couple different mounts. That Good Sit mobile guy makes like a mount that you can screw
Oh yeah.
against the tree. It'll angle it with the laser. I like those a lot.
Oh wow.
They're fast for me to put up in the tree and keep going.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, the one thing we've talked about, and I don't know. I mean, I haven't paid attention to it enough, but I'm sure it does. Is like, especially with the cell cams, is like, are mature bucks really starting to get weirded out, or are they able to detect whatever, some sort of frequency? And I would think elevating the camera in a tree like that would absolutely, just like us being in the tree as a hunter, right, would, reduce that spook or whatever sixth sense that they may have around it versus, an eye level straight on, it's looking right at you coming down the trail type of thing.
I mean, in my experience, I've ran SD card cameras low, and I've had deer negative react to those too. They smell my scent on it, or they get wigged out, then I never see the buck again. But running the cameras high for a year or two, I've never had a buck look up at the camera, even though it was there. They just go right by it. And my thing is on the frequency, man, I don't know what to really think on that, because your cell phone's going off. A deer would never come by me if they could sense that. So you got all the cell phone waves every day going around. Guys are filming with cell phones. So even though my camera's not right there, I got my cell phone and I'm filming, it's not like spooking the doe. I don't think they're detecting like
That's true.
the waves to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. I think, even with like whatever, the blackout or, blacked out infrared, like they know it's there. Yeah, I mean, you could tell when it goes off. I mean, whether it's just the red edge around the black, they know that camera's there, and they know what's going off. Whatever they're seeing via their cones and rods in their eyes, I don't know.
They're like, ooh,
yeah, they know what's happening. So
did you get that one?
So that's where it's hard. Is like, are they avoiding it? I don't know. I mean, I've had giant bucks just crush scrapes day after day in front of a cell camera. Are there bucks that I never see on camera? I don't know. I doubt it.
Not that you never see, but I mean, if your cameras are always in the same places, you're probably at a disadvantage.
Yeah, I believe that they avoid the camera once they know it's there. I've glassed some. I was on this 200-inch buck, and I had my camera right on his exit route, and then I got a couple photos of him. Then I was like, what the heck? Like, is he still there or not? So I went and I glassed it, and he was coming down the exit trail, and then he was looping out around my camera where it would go off every single time. So he knew the camera was there, but I had it low, and I think they interact with your scent at the camera site, and it like they remember that your scent was right there.
For sure.
So I don't know if it does much to camera as just the human interaction.
Yeah, and I think that in fact, I just had one last night. I think the biggest kind of indicator of that is I've had bears come up to my camera like literally 2 months after I've touched that thing, and they're all over that camera. And I don't think it's because of they're hearing it, or I think it's scent. They know that I've touched it, my scent's on it still. It doesn't matter how much rain and how much whatever, they're all over it, and they know it. And I mean, I think it's probably the same with the deer.
Don't bears have some kind of like tendency towards like plastics and rubbers and stuff, like towards wanting to get into that?
Mm-hmm.
They seem pretty curious animals. Like when they see it visually, they want to play with it.
They want to eat it.
They're just like big raccoons.
Yeah. I do think that to the point of them avoiding it, it's the downfall of cell cameras is, and guilty of it myself, but you start hunting that cell camera and waiting for the pattern to form, and that deer's just avoiding it out of range. And so you're waiting for a pattern to form that probably is already happening. And you're like, oh, he's not there. I'm not seeing him. To your point, Rendell, if you didn't go out and glass it, like you would have thought that deer was gone. He was out of there.
Yeah, for sure. It's only like a 20-yard window into the woods. What's happening?
Exactly.
That's why if you go in season, you scout, you find the sign. I'm just gonna hunt it instead of relying on the camera anymore. And I'll use myself as the dictation on if the buck's big enough to kill or not. Like when he comes through that first time, I'll be like, "Yep, I'm gonna shoot him," or "No, I'm gonna pass on him."
Yeah.
And then I might drop the camera while I'm there and I already hunted it. My scent was already there instead of like, "Oh, the buck already picked me off because I'm not there." So then I'll hang the camera up just to observe the spot after I leave
Mm-hmm.
to see if something bigger shows up that I might have missed. But I'm more that one picture guy. Like I just want that one photo. If I can get the one photo, I'm just gonna use the timestamp and the wind direction to kind of dictate where I think he came from and how far. And then I'm gonna use woodsmanship to go kill him because I feel like woodsmanship, we're getting so far away from that. Like
We
I
are.
wanna, as I get older and more in my hunting career, I'm going the other way. I'd rather get more into woodsmanship and get away from technology.
Yeah. When you get that one picture, so let's say you get that picture, you look and say, okay, it's this time, this is the wind. Are you banking on that buck utilizing that bedding area like that? It's more of a primary bedding area or a primary feed source, and that's what you're connecting your dots to.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to bank on the bedding area for that wind that he's gonna constantly use it because it's probably his best bedding spot for that wind if he's mature, and he'll just keep going back to it. So I'm just gonna dive right back in there on that next same wind I get and try to figure out a setup. And I'll push further back than the camera to
Yeah,
try to, because a lot of those bucks, they don't even make it about 100 yards before dark. So you got to kind
sure.
of get in that bubble.
Yeah, I think that's the and guilty of it, but that's the over analysis or the overthinking that killing these big mature bucks is that they're creatures of habit, and that ultimately when you get these data points and you start thinking, okay, well maybe he did this, right? It's like just break it down to the simplistic format that if it's whatever, let's say it's 2 a.m., or let's say it's 5 a.m., he's heading back into a bedding area. He's not far from it at that point. Here's what the wind looks like. Look at the aerial. You probably have a pretty good chance if you put a circle on the map of where he's bedding. Now, how you approach that and how you hunt it, different ball game. But I think we often are just, you get those pictures and then it's like, okay, and then it just blows up and you overthink it and you try to form a strategy that frankly is more complex than it needs to be.
Yeah, when I start overthinking, that's when I do my worst hunting. When
Yeah.
I just go with my gut and my instinct and I'm just walking through the woods and that voice in your head's just like, sit here.
Yeah.
Like every time I overthink it and don't sit there, the buck usually goes right by the spot
Yeah.
where my brain is like, oh, you should just sit here. Because I think when you get experience, your mind's just analyzing all the data in real time and you're not even really having to think about it. It's kind of like muscle memory.
Yep.
And your mind's just like, oh, getting that tree right there.
Yep.
And then there's some strategies too versus the morning versus evening pick. If I get a morning picture that day, I'm going to look to see if there's going to be a wind shift. If there's going to be a major wind shift, I'm going to set up to the bedding I think he's going to shift to and try to cut him off on the shift. But if it's a steady wind the same direction, I'm going to hunt that afternoon on that setup for that same wind. And if it's an evening photo, you got to wait to see like, okay, when am I getting that next wind again? It might be a couple days later, but you got to move quick because that shift and the food source is changing a little bit, unless you got knowledge of the area, like he's just going to be ingrained in that bedding area no matter what. So there's a lot of situational tactics that you kind of got to think through. There's no like one-stop shop.
Yeah. On the camera stuff, because I've run into this quite a bit. Like it's kind of a conundrum on, I think we all think that, whether it's because of they smell it or there's something with the EMF frequency or whatever, but like we all kind of agree, like they know the cameras are there. Do you avoid putting those like right at your stand locations? Like if you have a spot picked out in mind, like will you purposely say like, oh, I don't want to put a camera here because I don't want to booger it? Or
I have done that. Or if I find a big set of tracks going into a spot, if I verified the deer in some way ahead of time, I don't need the camera to verify the size of the deer. I'm basing my woodsmanship to tell me, all right, I think this is a mature buck. He's using this bedding area. Only mature bucks do, or it's a giant track, or I glass the deer. Like I already seen the deer, or if I was hunting and I seen the deer like 500 yards away, pop out of the woods and do something, like I already have verification that the deer is there. I don't need a picture, because then you won't run into setting your sin in there when you're putting the camera. You should just go hunt the deer.
I think that's there's kind of two, I guess it'd be two concerns, right? The concern number one is you're hunting in an area that the big buck doesn't exist, right? You're basically hunting a ghost and wasting time. That would be one concern I think most of us would have. The second one, and you know, not to sound like picky or egotistical about it, is that you end up shooting a buck that's not the biggest buck in the area, right? Which is why most of us use cameras and stuff, is we want to know, like, you know, should I hold out on this deer because there's this deer as well, type of thing.
Yeah.
So I think those are the two concerns that you have to try to figure out to solve for. And if, you know, let's say you see a giant buck track, well, there's a big buck in there. It's just, is there a bigger one in there? You know, and that's it ultimately comes down to, when you see them, is it going to satisfy you? Like, is that what you're looking for? It doesn't matter if there's a 200 inch in the area. If a 180 comes by, I'm probably killing a 180. I'm not going to pass them necessarily.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I did. I mean, I was on that 200 inch buck, and then that buck right there came out and I shot him instead.
yeah.
So, but it's all personal choice. I mean, you got to be disciplined and have faith in your hunting skills and ability, that if you pass a 160, you know what you're doing. Like, you chose to pass the deer. That was your choice, and you're going to go find something bigger.
Yep.
But you have to be in places that have bigger deer. Like, you got to keep moving. That's why I kind of like that inventory deal where I got like 10 bucks that I wouldn't mind killing. And you might have bigger deer.
Me too. Me too.
I love that.
I like that.
That should be like, if you ever do a website, is it just be Rendell's list of bucks he wouldn't mind killing?
Yeah. So like 2 years ago, I found 15 bucks over 150.
Yeah.
So
That you wouldn't mind
I
killing?
was fine with killing any of them. And that's how I can be like, I'm more aggressive on them, because I have,
You got other
if I
ones.
blow one up, I'm just going to bounce to the next. Like,
And you've got 2 buck tags, right?
Well, you got 1 bow and 1 gun tag. You can use the gun tag late muzzleloader, but it's like 20 below zero and there's no cover.
And you're from the South.
harder.
We get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm that way too. I'm that way too, Rendell. Like, as much as I think it's cool, like, to be able to, you know, if I could target one buck, I'm like, that's the buck.
Yeah.
I think the primary motivator for me is I'm not the only one hunting our properties. And so it's like, what am I going to do? Tell everybody else, hey, that's my deer.
That's a tough piece, because I'm the opposite. I'm a 1 buck. Like, as soon as I see the buck I want to kill, that's the only deer I even think about.
Yeah.
Like, everything else is out the window. Now, if there's another great buck in the area and he comes by, I'm not saying I wouldn't kill him, but I'm hunting that buck.
Yeah. But I kind of like, when I see another one, I'm like, what? This is a pretty nice buck too, though. I kind of like it. I wouldn't mind killing him either.
Rendell would say he wouldn't mind killing this one.
I wouldn't mind killing that one either.
I did that last year. I got locked on this 1 buck, and man, he took me to school. He kicked my ass pretty much. And I was like, oh, I messed up. Like, right when I got zoned in and tunnel vision on this 1 deer, like, I had other big bucks in other areas, but I was so locked in on this buck. I was like, I messed up. Like, I should have hunted him when I could, and then when I got closer to rut, I should have bounced out and just started freestyle hunting instead of locking in on him so much.
Yeah.
But I mean, the good thing is he'll be bigger this year if he made it through.
Well, and that's it. As long as you felt like you were in the game, it's great. I think all of us have probably thought we were hunting a giant buck and he wasn't there, whether he got killed or he moved out. And now you're spending days and weeks on end hunting a ghost, which is the worst.
And I guess it's like with spots. So like, my question about would you put a camera at your spot is like literally right now, it's like, I found these white oaks on these field edges with trails coming out of bedding areas that I'm like, it's a killer spot. Like, there's gonna be, so I put a camera there and I have a stand there.
Yep.
And I'm like, you know, the camera's going to tell me if there's a deer there that I want to hunt or not.
Yeah.
So I, in my mind, that's better than just hunting the spot, hoping that a good deer is there when there's other spots to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you need validation.
But I do feel like, man, if I knew the buck was there and I could do without the camera on that, like, because I do think it boogers them a little bit.
I think you're a month, if you're a month out from season, I say go for it. If you're closer than that, it's not worth me putting my scent in there to put the camera up. I'm just gonna hunt it and do observation sits and glass.
Oh, really?
Because if you're, yeah, like I don't, because your scent will hold like a month.
Well,
when
how
you
do
go
how do
into
you
it.
feel about what I was saying earlier about a scouting loop? Did you hear me say that? Where I'm like, dude, getting into season, like October 1st or October 15th, I'm not afraid to like, because I got ground to cover. I'll get on the Ranger or something, and I'll just go scout as much real time sign as I can. Kind of not worrying about if I'm in there one time, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, if I'm doing that, I'm usually hunting if I find something right away. If you're a month out from season, you can't hunt. You're just putting your scent in there and you can't hunt that sign
Sure.
or that spot right away. So I think you're just messing it up more than you're helping yourself.
Well, the difference though is like if you're hunting, you're moving. Chances are slow. You want to cautiously be moving into an area. When I'm doing a scouting loop, I'm covering ground. Like
who does speed scouting? Is that Eberhard?
Barry Wenzel, Eberhard.
Yeah.
I know some guys that don't do it. There's your Mark Drury's, stay out of it completely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a hitter, and I think it depends on how you're doing it. Like you on the side-by-side, or if you're on an e-bike, you're not really leaving any scent because you're not really walking around. If you're just,
and I'm not pushing into like bedding areas either. I'm just hitting like field edges, like places where I know I can pick up sign and use that to read what's going on deeper.
Yeah. And if you're hunting public, other guys are probably doing that. So yeah, I'd run around on field edges and stuff, but I don't want to go into like close to bedding or
I totally get
back in
that.
the timber and stuff. So, but I usually just wait to get in there right when season opens. That way, when I find it, I can just hunt it right away. If I do speed scouting, I usually just drive around blocks because I was like mile by mile grid squares.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'll just use glassing and driving around. And I kind of already got that figured out in the summer though. Like right now, my summer scouting is basically checking food sources and I'm marking them on the map, what's where. And then I'm doing glassing and then I'm seeing, okay, there's a big buck on beans, like I said. And then I think he's going to shift to this cornfield. So I might already have my camera in that cornfield where I think the best spot is, waiting to see if I pick him up when he shifts into the corn. And if I never pick him up, then he might have shifted somewhere else and I'll just pop off him and I'll just go, I'll go check all my areas where I think bucks are shifting into.
It really is crazy. Like, I know it's one thing to say that deer shift like from a summer range to a fall range, but if you have the opportunity to observe a real shift, like it's pretty amazing how extreme that is sometimes. Like I've got pictures of a deer right now that I think is probably, I think he's 4. And he's probably 2 miles, like as a crow flies and it's just patchy, it's ag country from where he spent most of October, November last year. And I just think that's super interesting.
That's crazy.
I assume he'll do the same thing this year.
I think, even with how in tune we are into like the local neighborhoods and what people are killing around our properties or where we're at, I think, immediately, the buck from last year doesn't show up this year. We're like, he's dead. He got killed, whatever. I think far more than we all probably want to admit, that deer just moves out and he could come back or he just stays moved out until he does get killed. But he didn't necessarily die. Like I wouldn't say it was like a year or two ago. It was like any mature deer that I had last year that didn't come back, I'm like, he's dead. Like that was just my immediate thought. And like, I think through just some of the research and hearing what other people have been talking about, it's like, that deer just picks up and moves, for whatever reason. Something changed.
I think herd dynamic plays a major role.
Yeah.
Like, the older them bucks get, the gnarly bully bucks or whatever, they will cause other deer not to.
And those
not
6
to
and 7 year old bucks don't want to be out there fighting and burning energy and stuff like that. They just want to go and do their thing. They want to be left alone and want to eat and breed when they can, and that's it. I don't care about anything else.
Preach, yeah.
Don't
we all?
That's when you find them
Breed when we can.
Spots like CRP or
Yes.
like a little tiny like half-acre wood lot's got a 200 in it because he's isolated by himself. And even though I hunt mostly public land, I do listen to a lot of land management guys that pay attention to the shifts and stuff because ag country, they shift way more often because I'll see if you got a summer buck on your property out here, he's probably going to be gone like come fall time.
Yeah.
Like a buck today is gone tomorrow is what I believe out in big ag. But if you're in like big woods country, I don't think they shift as far.
No,
I agree.
yeah.
Ag.
I don't think so, because most of my hunting is in big woods, and like I will say, like I've got some bucks on my properties right now, but I bet the majority of deer I hunt in the fall are not far from me right now. They're just not on my property, and so they'll shift, but it's really not a shift as much as it is just an expansion of the home range. They'll still occupy where they were in the summer. It's just now that's going to expand out and cover my property or whatever else. The bucks that I see right now, they're homebodies. I'll have them the whole season basically. Like they'll go and visit other properties, but they'll still be on my property. So it's weird. I don't see those big fall winter shifts as much as I just see expansion of home range.
Yeah. We're out here. A buck can move 5 miles.
And that's what Jared's seeing too in the ag
And
side.
I mean, if you think about it, what is 5 miles really? Like we could walk 5 miles in 20
couple
minutes.
hours. Not 20 minutes.
Well,
That's a 4-minute mile.
You better be in the
I was
Olympics
using
if you're doing that.
I was using Rendell's stride.
Rendell stride. I get it.
Rendell
yeah.
could walk.
Yeah, 20 miles in 2 minutes. I got it. Yeah.
About less than 2 hours, I can walk. I can rock 5 miles pretty easy.
See,
there you go.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is, like, think about under cover of darkness. Like, dude, it's nothing for a
it's
buck
nothing.
to go.
Kansas has been the place that has really opened my eyes up to that. Because, I mean, there's been times that super high, like 6 point, he was like down in this bottom by me. By the time I came up to, I don't know, I was picking up you or my dad, he's 2 miles away in a matter of 35 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, well, there's nothing stopping them. It's just pasture and CRP. It's
And under cover of darkness. I mean, that's the biggest difference. It's like it's during the day you can look around and be like, well, he's not going to cross here or this. But, dude, when it's dark, they'll go anywhere. They'll walk right in your backyard. Like they
don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they move fast. I've seen them even like jog, like trot, just to get to places, man, and they're moving fast.
I think that you mentioned what did you call it? Long lining? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah.
Or that was pretty unfamiliar to me for a long time, and then I really picked up on it, I guess, in some of the late season type stuff. But those deer that do the long lining, meaning they found that primary habitat for bedding, it's undisturbed, everything's the right conditions, the wind, the direction, their viewpoint, security, and then they're willing to sacrifice distance to food source, especially during the fall, to long line out from that secure bedding, because they're going to spend 70% of their day in that bed. You know, the other 30% is when they're out moving and getting food and, you know, checking for does or whatever they're doing. So I think that concept, especially in ag country, is very under-realized, where people will say, well, you know, that buck's bedding 2 miles over here. Like on the right morning, you'll catch him in your alfalfa field. He'll be there. You know, it just depends on that time. He's willing to sacrifice being out and moving even in daylight hours as long as he can spend the majority of his bed in a secure place. I think we see that out in the like western U.S. in like North Dakota. Those deer are basically long lining from bluffs to alfalfa to back to bluffs.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you can use your weather hunting. Like you can predict the cold front, whatever's going to slow him down a little bit.
Yes.
And then if you get a long lining buck, I think that's the buck you want to hunt in the morning.
No doubt.
You just get in that little bedding area. He's 2 miles away, but you got to get in there like 2 o'clock in the morning and get set up and watch your thermals, the wind, because he's going to do a little J hook. So if there's some type of terrain where you can kind of funnel him into that bed that you can use to your advantage, I like to hunt those in the morning just because I feel like you're more bulletproof. And then he'll come on a cold front, man. He might not get back till, I don't know, an hour after
exactly
daylight. Because on a normal day, he's probably in that bed before daylight, and you have to beat him back to the bed.
Yeah. And I think on some of those ones where he gets hung up, even if, let's say you're on public and he's bedding on private, there's public that could be in between where he's at and where he's going that you could intercept him in daylight hours.
Especially towards the end of October, he's maybe making some scrapes all the way back.
Have you ever?
So you don't have to be right on the bed. You can catch him in between the long lines somewhere. But
Yep.
Have you ever done that, Rendell? Have you ever killed a buck coming back to his bed?
I've mostly just killed him coming out. I've
Mhm.
not had too many morning hunts really where I got on bucks right in the bedding area.
Well,
I try it, but it usually just a disaster for me.
yeah. I mean, I've killed bucks in the morning. You know, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
they were cruising. Like they weren't.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard guys talk about like setting up on the buck bedding
I mean,
areas, the J hook.
It's it's like first.
You've never
thing.
done it, have you?
Probably by luck. That 157 I killed on Kansas Public was probably coming back to his bed.
You think?
That one down that bottom. Yeah, for sure. Because he was just kind of lumbering his way right at daybreak back into that thick area.
Where do you think he would have ended up bedding?
Behind Bernie's.
Just up in that teardrop, like where that buck that winded me come out of.
Yep, going right up in there.
Yeah, maybe.
Yep, because that wind was.
But you were pretty
coming.
far from that.
Yeah, 250, 300 yards.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was I didn't even realize how big he was when I first saw him. It was still dark, and as he got closer and he walked right under the stand. And I think the only thing that saved me is there's that ditch. My wind was pulling into that ditch and he was up on the ditch. So my wind was pulling back in and he was up on it and he walked,
Yeah.
never had a chance.
That's doable. I think I may have done it without knowing too, is killed a buck in the morning, like on just a pinch point, like a terrain feature where he's going back to bed, but never, you know what I'm talking about? Like there's guys that actually will go and maybe have had success, like hanging over the bed, basically. It's like trying to beat him in there.
Yeah.
Who does that?
Yeah. I've done it a lot, but I've never.
No.
It's something always happens that just screws me, honestly.
Well, yeah.
In the ag country, it's really hard to cut off their J hook. I think where you're at is more hill country. I think you can get it done a little bit better than ag, unless you got like drainage ditches and stuff. But all the does are what usually get me, because all the does will be out in the ag fields while I'm in the tree, and you got to blow your wind somewhere, or your thermals will drop and it'll kind of do that thermal flood, and then the bed's right under you.
What's that? Is that a thermal flood?
Yeah, so if you don't really have any wind, your scent's still dropping down with the thermals, but it'll like flood the area almost like a fog.
Oh yeah.
And it'll just hover there like it's not moving somewhere.
Yeah.
Or you can get it where Andre DeQuisto talks about thermal pooling, where a draw can only hold so much air, or like a creek or something. And then when it fills up with its capacity of air, it'll flood back out into the field in front of you. So you think your scent's good, but it's actually pushing it back up into the field in front of you. So when guys get busted, they're like, they don't understand. But a lot of it's that thermals is actually filling back out around you up onto like the field or whatever you're trying to avoid.
Those thermals definitely have like a major factor.
The thermals and terrain. Those are the two things. Like you're playing a wind direction, but when it comes to the thermals and then however that terrain is going to deflect that, it's.
If you've ever hunted a ridge with when the thermals are rising, like on a November morning, it's like there's nothing like it. It's like nothing can touch, nothing smells you, nothing knows you're there. But then there's other days, and it's hard to know. Frankly, I've yet to fully master or understand when they will rise and when they will fall, other than typically in the
mornings and evenings,
but not always.
Yeah, weather conditions and
if
rain.
those thermals are falling, like it almost just seems like you're screwed, like no matter what.
Well, I mean, that's the one thing that I've started to find more, and for good reason, is you find these big community scrapes where the terrain all kind of comes down, and
that's your thermal hubs.
Exactly.
You're talking about, yeah.
Now try to hunt that damn thing.
Yeah,
it's nearly impossible. I mean, it's that way and that good for a reason. To get in there and try to hunt that thing, even if you come straight up in through a creek, like there's still a chance that things are going to switch and that deer is going to come in from behind to try to work, that thermal coming down.
And they will, if it can go right.
Yeah, and he's going to. So, I mean, that's a perfect place where if I could get a camera in from an observational side, I'll do it. And then I'm going to have to play one of the ridge tops to try to kill that deer.
Yeah, because sometimes the buck won't even move into that thermal hub until after the thermals change, and he'll come on that high ridge trail, and then he'll scent check that whole hub, and then he'll drop down into it. Or you got to have like a high pressure day with no wind. It'll pull your thermal straight up. You can kind of get away with it. Or the wind's blowing right down the hub. So you're essentially walking into the hub with the wind in your face and you're getting set up. But I don't know. Hubs are really hard. I'd rather hunt on the outside of them. But I think hubs is the thing this year. Everyone's talking about
it is, man. Yeah.
So I've been looking at maps and deciphering where do I think the buck's going to shift when all these guys start going in here and hunting these hubs and blowing them out.
I'll tell you where I've found it, at least, Rendell, is that it's these saddles on the ridges right above. So wherever you can find, like, here's where the hub, here's where everything's going to drop. Now, look, and it's like dead level, and then there's this little saddle in between these two hubs. That deer is going to want to come up and across there. He's just going to want to, or he's going to be coming along the ridge and drop into there. And so if you can get there when that thermal's rising up, he thinks he's getting the advantage by catching all the thermal up. Meanwhile, you're still up above him, and that's your dead shot. But, you know, it's the hardest part for a lot of those is most of those hubs are deep or deeper, right? So it's even on the ridges, you're gonna have to be going through quite a bit of stuff to try to get access into them if they're a good one and not overpressured on public, especially.
I mean, you could be like Bill Winky and sleep out there.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I just saw I watched his video.
Creeks and ditches,
that went through everything about, you know, if he's there and you can't get in without spooking him, you got to sleep there. And I'm just like, I don't know, man.
You could, I guess.
That's what it takes, man. I would do it in a heartbeat. I actually thought about sleeping in a spot this year where I was chasing that buck last year. I think I'm going to walk out in the cornfield and like make a little area, like kind of trim it. And then I'm going to sleep right in the cornfield.
Somebody's going to think you're a freaking Sasquatch coming out of there.
You're just going to hear in the middle of the night, you're just going to hear a combine.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. Like, I'll probably get run over out there sleeping. Yeah. You'll see me on the news.
It's not I mean, especially when you start talking about, like, if you know you've got, let's say, a bedding area that you're going to kill that buck. He's out of there, but he's coming back. And you know you have to be in there, let's say 2 a.m., you know, heading back out there and getting in there and just kind of tucking yourself in is not the worst idea in the world. You know, maybe you're hunting here in the evening and then you get out and you work your way over there and you're in it.
It's like it's a long season. Like there'll be plenty of opportunities. Do you really have to sleep out there?
Chance usually to kill that deer. So if you got to do it, you got to do it. But circling back to Jared's question about killing the buck in the morning, if you watch the tethered video of when Jared Schaefer came up here, we actually did that. He shot that buck long line and back to a bedding area in the morning. We set up in a spot that I knew about, and then observation sit. Basically, we seen the bucks the morning before. We seen what they did, and then we made a plan. Then he moved in. And the next, he snort wheezed that buck in when he was long lining back to his bed.
Was he going to bed on private or public?
It was public land.
He just got in between. Yeah.
Yeah, between like the food and the bedding. It was like a Halloween, so they're kind of like
he was slow, hitting scrapes on the way back. Yeah, and there's not much better than that. I mean, that is the time to figure it out when it comes in. Yeah, it is. You talked about everybody, you know, discussing the hubs. It does seem like that has all of a sudden become the craze. It's like, okay, you know, this is the hub. This is how these, and it's like, yeah, but again, like, you know, how you hunt those things and how you hunt them effectively is a whole different ballgame. And you get one person that doesn't know how to hunt a hub, he's going to ruin it for the rest. He's going to walk his butt right down in and put right up over that community scrape, and it's dead.
Yeah, and sometimes it's better to hunt. Like if I know what other people are doing, I'm going to do the opposite and look for different areas where people aren't going to be at.
That's where those overlooked road spots and stuff come into play. People walk right by them. They're like, I got to get 2 miles in here and stuff. And meanwhile, there's a great CRP field and a food source right here, and those deer are cutting right across.
Yeah, in the morning I shot that buck. I hunted another spot close to the road, and I had a buck long line back in. But he zigged, and I thought he was going to zag, and I couldn't get a shot on him. But he was a monster, too, so I was kind of sick.
Yeah.
But I make up for it in the evenings. I just like hunting in the evenings a lot more because I can see what I'm doing.
Me too.
Noise. in the morning, sometimes I get lost out there. Sometimes I'm like, I had a tree picked out and you're in the dark and you're like, your GPS.
I know, man.
It's hard, man. One thing,
Yeah,
if I can avoid it, I will, is hang in a tree stand in the morning.
Yeah.
I've done it, but
I'd rather not.
I just feel so exposed to, like, once you get up in there and
It's the noise
you're like, oh, I
aspect,
can see
too.
really far here. And then you're like, probably anything that was out there, like, could have seen me doing this.
Yeah.
And
Or you got that frost on the ground in the morning. It's just crunchy.
Yeah.
if I can, because I obviously prefer to be mobile if I can. It's a combination, right? It's a farm that we hunt, have been hunting for years. So I have spots, like on your X marks the spots. I've got edges and stuff that have set stands in them. So we'll hunt those from time to time. But if I go and hang a stand, like I try to do it in the evening, and typically if I want to hunt that spot in the morning, I'll hunt it the night before too. So I'll leave everything. I'm a big fan of leave everything in the stand overnight. Leave the bow hanging right there and hope it's not too windy, and then get it there in the morning.
If I think it's good enough for an evening sit, I leave everything, the bow. I got a carabiner. I'll carabiner the bow on the tree so my bow doesn't get knocked off in the middle of the night by raccoons or something.
Yeah.
And I'll come right back in the morning.
It's the little things in life, man. There's few people can appreciate, like, to be able to just crawl into a tree stand, clip in, and that's it. Just sit down and you're hunting. That's a thing of beauty.
Yeah, it'll spoil you when you're mobile, and I'm running through stuff all the time, setting up every single time I hunt. So sometimes it's nice to do that in the morning.
Hey, you'll get a kick out of this, Randall. I sold my saddle.
Oh, nice.
I know you're a big saddle guy. I was really, trying to give it the benefit of the doubt. And then somebody was like, "Hey, were you serious about selling that?" I was like, "Yeah, I sold it."
Yeah. It takes some time, a learning curve. I don't know. It's all a tool, man. I've killed them out of ladder stands, hang on saddles. Like, if you're a killer, you're a killer, man. It doesn't matter what you're using.
I do get the bulk aspect of it, like being able to have a saddle and stuff. Like, it's less bulk going in and things like that, and quieter probably than a hang on stand for sure. But yeah, I think it just takes getting used to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little adjustments, like with the tether and tether height, and where you have the saddle on and not all saddles are created equal either. There's some saddles that are really good and some not so good.
Yeah.
But I will every now and again I'll use a tree stand if I have the spot pre-scouted, because sometimes this way it sets up, you might want to be on the face of the tree in a tree stand, or you got a cedar tree. Some of those head trees are hard to get in with the saddle. So sometimes I'll throw the tree stand on and go, but man, I just don't really like carrying it on my back. It's just a big profile.
Especially if you don't have to. Yeah. I mean, if you're planning on a saddle, it would suck to bring both, but
saddle's more like just my running gun if I'm going in blind, or if I know the spot has the saddle. But I'll use the tree stand here and there, but I just can't sit all day in a tree stand because I'm so tall. But I will say some of the newer tree stands got the higher seat post.
Yeah.
Like, the 23 inch. So I'm not eating my knees the whole time I'm sitting.
Right.
Mine and Jared's feet are basically dangling off of those.
Yeah, my legs are like kicking like this.
Yeah, mine are way off the front of those too. Sometimes the platform's really tiny, but it's just all what you like to do, man. I just got used to saddle hunting, and that's what I use. But I'll use a tree stand here and there.
I was just giving you a hard time. Figured you'd get a kick out of the fact that I was like threw in the towel. I was like, not for me.
I'll hunt on the ground too, man. In the saddle, like you could stand on the ground with the saddle on, like it's just whatever.
Why? What's the point? Why wouldn't I not just stand against the tree?
It's more comfortable for me to take my weight off.
Yeah, I guess. Lean back into it.
Get on the ground. Like Warp from Hunting Public.
Yeah.
Him and Ted, they'll get down on their knees, man, and sit their butt on their heels. I can't do that, dude. I'd probably break my legs off if I tried doing that.
Yeah, my feet would fall asleep probably doing that.
Squat position.
Yeah,
make
squat
a small
positions.
Fire.
I've dug some holes in the ground before, then put my feet down in them and just put my butt flat on the ground, and then that's a lot better for me.
That has to be a deep ass hole.
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes a while to dig it out. I'll carry a little military shovel with me, and I'll dig it out.
Somebody probably thought
a little shit shovel with you.
They're burying a body out there. Jeez. Somebody,
Dude, if I came across you digging a hole out in the woods, I'd be a little
yeah.
concerned.
Yeah, not a good look, right?
Yeah. Nick would be walking through the woods, fall in your hole, and he couldn't get out. It'd be that deep.
It'd be like a
It's a
grave for me.
sinkhole.
Nice.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Stealth Cam.
Dude, where would we be without our cell cams?
I would definitely be divorced at this point.
Yeah, I hear that.
I mean, the fact is I spent more time checking cameras than I actually did hunting prior to cell cameras. Now, at least, my wife can enjoy me being in the comfort of my own home, buried in my phone, checking those pictures.
Yeah, 100%. And dude, when it comes to trail cameras and definitely cell cameras, reliability is, I think, the number one thing that we're looking for. Stealth Cam just has a long reputation of reliable cameras, and ultimately that is the most important thing to us. They have to work.
In terms of reliability, there's not a better camera on the market than Stealth Cam, whether you're talking about the Fusion X, the Reactor, or the DS4K Transmit. And most of them are under $200.
Stealthcam.com. Check them out.
So I assume you've been driving around in summer scouting so far, right? What are you seeing? You don't have to tell us exactly, but what are you thinking? How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty damn good, man. I got a couple
Couple you wouldn't mind shooting?
Yeah, they got me pumped, man.
You feel like I'm confident in the areas that they're in?
Yeah, I know the area's pretty good where they live at.
Are you familiar with them from past years?
The 200-inch buck I am familiar with from past years, and that buck I was chasing last year too.
Is it the
He's probably
same?
gonna be like
Is it the same 200-inch, like the one that was 200 last year? You've got him again this year?
yeah.
Yeah,
And
awesome.
then 180, like 180-inch 8-pointer from last
Woo.
year too. I'm back
Dang.
on him.
Jeez.
Call him the Mega.
The
Yeah.
Mega.
He's huge. Huge daggers, huge mass. His main beam's almost touching the front. He's just a wild buck.
You got any trail cam pictures yet, or just sightings?
Just sightings. I'm just doing observation sits and glassing from the pickup truck.
And so do you anticipate those deer shifting pretty hard here before the season?
Yeah, I think they're going to shift into the areas where I got my cameras. I'm just waiting for that shift.
Interesting, man.
It's kind of what I'm waiting. I put all my cameras the past week on like mock scrapes on green food sources on acorn trees, and they're pretty dead right now, but
Yeah.
within the next 2-3 weeks,
It's going to shift.
hopefully, yeah.
Isn't that crazy, man? The amount of confidence you would just have in like past history to know like, okay, they're here. I'm going to put my cameras and stuff here, and they're going to shift there, and eventually I'll see them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the older buck's a lot more patternable than a younger one. So I'm counting on him because they got corn back in there, and I think that's the key. And the honey locust pods are full on all the trees too in there. So I think it's a 1-2 combo. I think he'll shift in there.
Wow. That's crazy, man.
We're so close, man. I feel like at this time we're just killing time with conversation about like, is it couple more weeks.
What bow are you shooting? Like an Avatar bow or what?
Addle.
I got a Matthews Atlas 33-inch draw is what my draw.
Holy Jesus.
An Atlas. Is that a new, an older bow? Or?
What's a full shaft arrow? How long is a full shaft arrow?
Oh, he doesn't even cut them.
32-inch.
And so is that what you're using?
Yeah, I just used the full shaft, man.
Do you have a
Same here, bro.
I mean, if you've got a 33-inch draw, do you have a freaking overdraw or something on that thing?
I used to run an overdraw on my old bow, and I was getting like 350 feet per second on my
Oh
arrow.
my word.
Dude, you're going to hit a 6-year-old buck and he's just going to be taken off his feet.
He's like, was that a full shaft?
Yeah, they just zip right through them, man, at that speed.
It looks like a
the deer don't
spear.
even know it hit 'em.
You
They usually just look around. They look around like, what the hell just happened? Then they get the
no way!
wobblies.
I just got full bear shafted. How heavy is your whole arrow setup?
500 grains.
Yeah. Oh, that's
So
that's
is
a
mine.
heater, man.
What are you shooting? 70 pounds?
75.
You could probably pull 80 if you wanted to.
Yeah, I could pull 80
You could
if I
probably be
wanted.
drinking whole milk if you wanted to.
Well, I don't need 80 pounds, honestly.
I've got an 80 pound. If you're ready to shoot a real man's bow, I'll send you my RX-5. It's got 80 pound limbs on it.
Sweet.
A full shaft.
I'm dead
arrow
serious.
coming out.
I'm dead serious. If you wanted that bow, I'd give it to you.
Nice. Yeah, I think I could draw it. I don't know. What's the speed on that? What's IBO on that bow?
I don't know. The IBO is probably 330,
330s.
340.
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah,
for example, I'm shooting, I got the RX-7 and I'm shooting 80 pounds on it. I'm telling, dude, if I can pull 8 pounds, you can pull 8 pounds.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm shooting a 500 grain arrow out of it. It's like a micro diameter, so most of my weight is up front. And we didn't chrono it, but it's probably right at 300 feet per second.
Yeah.
Yeah, my old bow with the overdraw, I cut my arrows to 28 inches, and they were like 400 grams. And dude, it just be blazing fast.
Wow.
They're probably picked up on like U.S. radar for missiles or something. Jesus.
Yeah, this propulsion force we've never seen before.
That's crazy.
That's why I just shoot mechanicals, because at that speed,
Yep.
it just zips like a drone.
As do we.
What broadhead are you shooting?
G5 dead meat.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of good things about that. It seems like a solid.
Is that
broadhead.
100 or 125 grain?
I use 100 grain.
Yeah.
I've used them for like 12 years. They were T3s, and then they turned into the dead meat V2. I've used the mega meat too.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that's what you said. What are
dead
you?
meat?
Oh, what's the difference between the dead meat and the mega meat?
The mega meat's 2-inch cut. The dead meat's 1.5 inches.
Oh, okay. And which one are you shooting?
I shoot the dead meat.
The smaller one.
I like it better than the bigger one. When you shoot them with that 2-inch diameter dead meat, I feel like they know they got shot more, so they just bolt out of there 100 mile an hour.
Yeah, the full shaft probably doesn't help.
Yeah, where you zip them with that smaller head, they seem to stop and just look around, and you got a better chance for like a follow-up shot.
Oh, shoot. I'm bleeding.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if you need a follow-up shot with that harpoon going through them.
Man,
Usually not, but some of these bucks I'm shooting are over 300 pounds, so I might shoot them again just for good measure.
Just like a volley. Like they release a couple arrows a year.
Yeah, you're ripping, man. Dude, if you could get up to 80 pounds, and I'd shoot a 125 pound mega meat, 125 grain mega meat if I were you.
Yeah, tear them a new one.
Oh, they wouldn't even feel that shaft, dude. It would just be all blade.
Their lungs would be nailed to the tree behind them. They're like,
no field dressing required.
Buck with the mega meat, he didn't like that.
Yeah,
I didn't like that.
Ugh. That's a heck of a setup, though. It's funny. I mean, when you get into some of these bows, we're talking, obviously whether it's a Hoyt or a Matthews. I mean, they're just super good quality. The arrow setup is the one that kind of boggles me, because obviously you're in the same mindset Jared and I are, which is, a lighter
he
arrow.
Doesn't have a choice. The length of his arrow shaft is dictating the total weight.
Good FOC in the front, and expandables. And then you get on this whole other side, and frankly, Warb's on that train, which is like 650 grain, single bevels, and it's like...
It's the penetration mindset.
I get it. Yeah, but I mean, when's the last time, like, we didn't get good enough penetration on a buck with our expandables?
Well, my excuse is poundage. I mean, I can get away. And,
it's arrow build,
the poundage,
too.
Well, yeah, the poundage doesn't translate as much as I would like, or what people think. It really is the FOC that's built into the arrow. So, like, so we're both shooting 500 grain arrows. Mine's certainly shorter than yours. I don't know what the total length is, but a vast majority of the weight is up at the front. So I'm shooting 125 grain head with like an FX archery, an outsert that probably weighs, I don't know, 70 grains or something. Yeah. So my forward of center percentage is, I mean, it's way up at the front.
Yeah, it's way better than mine will be.
Yep. But yours sounds good too.
What arrow are you shooting for that full shaft?
The new Zinger arrows. They're Contenta, Cania. I don't know how to pronounce them, but the Zinger fletching guys, they got an arrow company now. 250 shaft.
Okay.
It is a 250. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah. That's the shaft right there, dude. Man, I think all the shaft talk's getting me
all worked up. Nick's flushed over here.
I think you could maybe for next year. I think you bump that up to 80 pounds and you put some more. You should be shooting at your draw length, dude. You should be shooting like 525 to 550 grains, I think.
Yeah, I'd rather go lighter, honestly.
How far do you usually shoot?
Why?
That's the question, right? Like, what's your normal kill range?
3 yards.
Yeah, you could go heavier.
Why would you go light? Why would you go lighter?
But I've shot bucks at 60 yards too.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
So my thinking is to go lighter as I get more speed, flatter trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
So my yardage guessing doesn't have to be as precise.
Yep,
that's a good call.
A big thing for me is public land. I can't cut shooting lanes. So if
100%.
I'm looking at a buck through a hole, I want to be able to shoot through that hole and not have to worry about rainbowing my arrow up and above it and hitting a bunch of stuff.
Wow, dude, you don't have to be concerned about that. I mean, 500 grains at your at 75 pounds, I'm still right in your same range there. I'm saying I wouldn't necessarily increase your weight without going to the 80 pounds, but at yours, you're probably right on. It's like if you could shoot, I don't know how many grains per inch that arrow is that you're shooting, but I'd shoot it as light as possible and as stiff as possible and keep that weight, but put it towards the front.
Yeah. Yeah, I was comparing it more to like the 700 grain arrow guys, the heavy arrow. They're more rainbowing. They got to be really precise in their yardage. Yeah. Where they're shooting, what they're looking through might not be where they're going to hit in the flight of the arrow. Yeah. So I want to just be able to hit where I'm looking at, basically. So I can get through little holes. That
300 is a sweet spot. If you're coming out of there 300 feet per second, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, that's what Joe likes too. Joe Miles likes that 300 feet per second mark.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
I like that. Common.
That we do. How about that? Yeah, I think I think we're, and again, we're talking whitetails here. You go to elk or moose or bear, whatever, a different ball game. We're speaking purely on a whitetail side, but I don't think anything but, a fairly fast arrow, decent FOC, and an expandable broadhead. I think that is just a killing machine for whitetails.
Yeah, for sure. I agree 100%.
Apparently you would. They're on your wall behind you. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it seems like it'd be proof in the pudding. Cool, man. Well, so you got big bucks here. What are you guys gonna be doing any content with ASIO and stuff, or what's the strategy there?
Yeah, they just hired Lucas Kincaid as a content creator. Yeah. He's gonna mostly filming Joe. I'm gonna self-film, but I got some like part-time camera guys that are gonna come film me here and there. And then I got some other hunts lined up that I'm gonna go on and just self-film a bunch and just kind of mix it up, do my own thing, have footage for them, and then Joe's putting all his footage on the ASIO Gear platform.
Very cool, man.
Where are you going? Where's these other hunts you got planned?
I'm going to Kentucky next week.
Yeah, boy.
So, word.
What part? Western Kentucky?
LBL.
Huh?
Yeah, Western.
LBL,
Western Kentucky.
Yeah, land between the lakes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. It's gigantic, so I don't care about name dropping.
Yeah, it's huge. There's some really good deer there. Some tough hunting as well, but there's some really good deer in the LBL area.
Then I'm going to go to Missouri after that, then be back here for Iowa bow opener. And then I got resident only early season muzzleloader tag too for October for Iowa this year, since I can hunt every day.
Oh, there you go. So is that in addition to your gun tag or no?
It is my gun tag.
That is your gun tag.
Yeah. So I'm burning my gun tag. So after, if I don't tag out after December, I'll pretty much be done unless my bow tag. I can use that late season still.
Yeah. So if you haven't filled it. Gotcha.
Yeah. And then November, I'm going on a special hunt, but I can't say anything about that. I don't even know where it is. You just show up.
Sounds like a trap.
Is that a special ed hunt?
No, it's like a TV deal.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, TV.
You just show up, they blindfold you.
As seen on?
They give you like an envelope or something with the state you're hunting, and you're gone the next day to go hunt it. Like, I have no idea.
What?
Is it like a Squid Game? Like a challenge, like a public land challenge type deal?
Yeah, kind of, sort of, I guess.
All right. So you know a little bit about it.
So it's for a TV show, though, right?
Yeah, I just can't say anything or they'll get mad at me.
All right.
Does the TV show exist or is it new?
No, it exists. They already have a platform.
Okay. So, but you show up blindfolded, maybe wearing pants or not. We're not sure yet. They give
full shaft.
full shaft.
You're like, I had pants when I left, and I.
Yeah, they give you an envelope, and then you just have to drive to that state and hunt.
Yeah, for like 7 days straight.
That doesn't sound like a bad deal. Minus the what happens with your pants. We don't know about that.
Tell us
for sure.
Tell us what network it's on, and we won't ask any more questions.
It'll be on YouTube.
Okay.
Okay, so it's an online show.
You can't ask any more questions. You just blew it. You're out of questions.
Sorry.
And
Okay.
then December, I have no idea what I'm doing in December yet. January, I'm going to go to Alabama.
Yeah, there you go. Go down south, hit the rut.
Yeah, exactly.
You should go down to the Mississippi Delta at some point too. There's some giants in there, and December, January is really good.
Nice. Yeah, I'm gonna circle back. Like if I don't kill early in Kentucky or Missouri,
Yep.
like Missouri, you get $2. You get another buck after the gun season's over. So good drop down there in a hunt. There's so many states I want to hunt that it's just I got a long list. Next year, I thought about doing like a mountain tour, like hunting Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Western Virginia.
There you go.
I'll trade you. I'll trade you a Pennsylvania tag for your late season.
We're
Iowa
coming.
tag.
We're going to Iowa next year.
Yeah.
We'll be in Iowa.
We will be.
We'll be in
next
Iowa
year.
next year. We'll finally draw, so we'll be out.
Yeah, you're gonna hit me up. I'll help you guys out.
All right.
There you go, man. Yeah, so it'll be fun. I think one thing you should look at is I think you would really enjoy a mule deer hunt in North Dakota with Jared and I at some point.
Yeah, that'd be sick. I've been thinking about hunting up there. I want to do elk too. I thought about going to Idaho or Colorado to the elk hunt.
The Badlands mule deer hunt you would enjoy.
Yeah, sounds sick. So
Yeah, and it's
It's
September.
a lot like your whitetail style, honestly. Just
Open
bopping
ground.
around and just hunting.
Yeah,
yeah, that sounds fun.
yeah. Opening days September 1st.
Yeah.
Yep. So there you go. Early in the game.
Yeah, it was on my short list with Nebraska, but I just picked Kentucky.
Your short list of states you wouldn't mind hunting.
Yeah, for early season opener. Yeah.
Didn't they just get like more stringent with Nebraska? Like I don't know if it's the mule deer or something happened there.
They limited a whitetail tag. Pretty much all non-residents are limited now.
Wow.
Once they fill the quota, you're done. Their deer population's way down bad.
From EHD.
EHD, over harvesting, and the winter was really bad out there last year too. A lot of winter kill.
Damn. That's crazy, man. Yeah, I mean, that's the stuff that they got to start, they got to get away from the opportunity in some of those states and start focusing on taking care of the herd and getting it to where it needs to be.
Yeah, for sure. So they kind of went to like the Idaho elk thing where once the tags sell out, there's gone and nobody else can get in.
Yeah.
It's like a first come, first serve.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow. Did you, we didn't get a chance to talk about it. You see Tim and Jason are not selling deer licenses this year?
No.
Because something about like the state wants them to do it like on a first come, first serve basis. And they're like, we just can't. As far as the doe tags.
Oh, the doe tags.
They're like, we're not going to like, that's going to be.
Because the line will just be out the door and they won't be able to do anything
So they
else.
just decide not to sell hunting licenses.
No, they hardly make any money off of that, I'm
Right.
sure. It's like $1 a license they make.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a clusterfuck.
Mm-hmm.
Stupid. But, well, cool, dude. Well, let's plan on getting you back here maybe in December or January, catch up on kind of your season and how everything's going. And then obsviously we'll see you at some of these trade
man.
shows.
You're welcome anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Hopefully I kill something so we got a story. It's just sitting here.
That's
Yeah.
right. I always like to hear about a full shaft getting sent.
There's one key thing though that I think will help me out over the last couple of years. That Tuesday through Thursday window on public, I got bucks that daylight because everybody's at work, man, and now I get to hunt that window.
That's right.
So
Suckers.
Yeah, suckers. I'll be hunting and everybody else, all my buddies will be working.
How did you swing? How's Joe Miles is just like, yeah, dude, 4 months. That's fine. Like, are you going to be working during this 4 months or just not really?
Product
I'm just
research and development.
R&D,
Yeah,
baby.
research, development, hunting my balls off. That's all I got to do.
Was that like something you worked in up front or like?
I think he used it as a persuasion.
Some incentive.
method to get- yeah.
Yeah, he's like, you can hunt. And you're like, great, I'm in.
He's like, well, I'm not going to pay you during this month. But
Yeah, it's like school, except instead of the summer, I get off the fall. Yeah, I
Yeah,
get it.
exactly.
That's
It's
the time to have
perfect
off.
scenario. Like a dream, man.
You will be
Definitely.
working your balls off, though, come quarter one.
Yeah, so the other 6 months, I'm working my balls off for damn sure, traveling all over hell and back. But it's worth it to hunt all season.
That's cool, man.
That's the name of the game, dude. Bust your balls off season, and
well, it's not, and you're with a good company. You know, you got good people around you. You've got good products. I mean, so that it makes it more enjoyable. And obviously, you know, being out there, you know, you hunting and killing a buck it's good content and good publicity for the brand. So why not?
Yeah, I make a lot of connections at the shows, man. Guys will give me some good intel, or even had a lot of guys invite you out to hunt their properties or do whatever. It's kind of wild.
it is wild, dude. We get the same thing like on Instagram. People hit us up. They're like, hey, if you guys ever want to come hunt so and so, you know, let us. I'm like, you guys are, you know, too generous. You know, we don't hardly ever.
But it's
take
Michigan,
anybody up
so
on
no,
it,
we're not actually going to come there.
Yeah.
I'm like, do you really want me to come kill your target buck? Come on, man. Really?
I couldn't do that to somebody. It's
Yeah,
200. Okay, fine.
Yeah, I mean, I will kill it, but
I would just tell them ahead of time, like, hey, man, you know what you're getting into. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to go for that big buck. You know,
Yeah.
it's just what it is.
I'm
But I'd
literally-
rather hunt around public.
Yeah, I'm literally going to be living in your living room for 7 days while you're working. So just so we're okay with that.
So it'll be fun though. I probably might take a couple like buddies that I know. I might do it. Just but hunt like a team, like hunt public, bounce around, like
Absolutely.
split off. I think that's kind of fun, kind of like the public land challenge things that like Dan and Fault and
Yep.
yeah,
Warb and those guys do. I think the hardest part that you'll figure out, even though you have like you can hunt every day, is like that travel and in between. Like you end up pulling yourself to a state, and then you know next thing you know you're getting camera pictures in Iowa, and you're like, damn it, you know. And it's just there's
Hope you're
only
stockpiling gas money.
Well, there's only so much good hunting time in a season. That's what because Jared and I suffer with it. We'll be like, oh, we're going to Kansas, and then back at our home farms, it's amazing, and we're like, damn it, you know. And it's just because you know those are the peak days. Doesn't matter where you're at in the Midwest or Northeast.
I'm not leaving Iowa if I have a tag unless it's for a TV hunt. That's the only way I'm doing it.
I think that sounds probably smart. Or like Kentucky, there's no season open, so why not? And then Missouri, there's no season open, why not?
Yeah, I can just hunt September, then circle back to Iowa, and then whenever I tag out, I can jump back out and go to the other states where I didn't fill a tag, or like do the January thing because I'm doing the early gun, so with the muzzle loader, so it'll give me something to do.
Sounds like a pretty good gig he's got here.
Yeah, definitely.
Are they hiring? Osceola's hired. Are they hired? I could use 4 months off. You need a marketing bitch? I'll be your guy.
Nice. You have to hit Joe up on that.
I
ain't saying anything.
All right.
Well, cool, dude. We appreciate you coming on this afternoon. I'm gonna choke on my water. But yeah, for sure, keep us updated. You know, throughout the season, and let's make sure that we rope you back in here. You know, later this fall, and kind of catch up and see how things are going, and prep you out for show season.
Heck yeah, man! It'd be awesome. Appreciate you guys a lot.
You too, buddy.
Thanks, dude. Awesome. Good to have Rendell back. Full shaft.
Always a pleasure.
His full shaft with us. It's funny. No balls, no bucks,
funny,
full shaft.
Man. I like that guy.
Yeah. I mean, and Joe and those guys at ASIO got a really good guy.
Sounds like they're taking good care of him. Give him 4 months off to hunt. That's not a bad gig.
Yeah. Good,
Joe's going to listen to
dude.
this podcast and be like, wait, no.
Yeah. Yeah. That guy's a killer too, man.
Who, Joe?
No,
Randall. Oh, yeah.
Dude, no, like it's funny because he's one of those guys that I think he explains it really well, but also if you were walking behind him when he was going into that stuff in his shadow, essentially, his gut instinct, I bet, is just kind of off the charts. Some guys just have it and some don't, you know, of just instinct of like,
yeah, well, it's just
that's the tree. That's where we're going to sit.
Yeah. Spending time in the woods, confidence, and making moves.
I think he's probably been our biggest supporter or agreeer in the fact of like, you know, you're not just going to go and kill bucks anywhere. The reason he's killing big bucks is because he's living in Iowa.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's why he moved there. And so, you know, you hear a lot from people in some of these bigger Midwestern states are like, oh, you know, it's not that easy. Well, yeah, but they're there at least. You know, there's a lot of states that those bucks,
possible.
Yeah, they don't exist. So I can be as good of a hunter and as you know, aggressive as a hunter as possible. The deer's not there to kill. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
just like besides him hunting in September, I wouldn't leave Iowa either. Why would I leave Iowa during the deer season? Yeah, to go where? So, I think that, that style of hunting though, his probably cutting his teeth in even, I think it was North Carolina where he hunted or grew up, but like cutting his teeth on that kind of hunting, to go to that, it's like, dude, you're a step ahead of a lot of people, because you've had to suffer in a place where those bucks didn't exist to try to kill decent deer. Mm-hmm. Now to go to a place where there are giant bucks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look at, I guess there's big bucks in it, but we use rising as an example for a lot, but who else, who are your other guys that are like your East Coast guys that when they go to the Midwest, they just they clean up? Rising's probably the most notable.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so.
It's like he just trips into Kansas and like three 200s are dead.
Yeah. I mean, he Rising like for sure. Yeah, he absolutely is the guy. Everybody else is pretty much located in the Midwest. Mm-hmm. Aren't a lot of us coming from the East?
Well, there are, but they kind of stick here. Think about your Johnny Stewarts, your Bows.
Yep, who are great killers. But I don't know if they don't necessarily hunt the Midwest that much.
I think they do mostly like PA stuff.
Mm-hmm. West Virginia, PA. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, it's just a different. Jake Bush is like Ohio, Kentucky. So I mean, there's just not a ton of them going that way. And I mean, we've said it, not to be cocky about it, but it's just. It is, some of the situations are easier. We talk about hunting the Midwest being easier. Some of those are, but it's just the abundance of bigger, mature bucks in those areas and the deer space that we can hunt them that makes it easier.
Yeah, it's just relative to like here. It may not even be possible. I can say, at least out there, it's possible. They're there. If they're there, it can be done.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
That's all it is.
So cool having Rendell on. We appreciate him coming in and explaining his full shaft to us.
We are full shafting right into season.
Yeah, it's August 29th at this point. If you're listening to this on the day it dropped, and I mean we are
TikTok.
We are into it. We are into it. I can't wait. September gets me giddy, and then after that it's just I'm full shafting.
We're off to the races.
Yeah, at that point. So anyways, we appreciate you listening to Rendell Erik, episode 142. Mm-hmm. Nick?
Sure do.
142, and we'll catch you next week.
Later.
Take me